Nathan Carter stood frozen outside the CEO's office, his hand trembling on the door handle. For 8 months, he'd avoided this woman, Victoria Hale, like she was a ghost. He'd ducked into stairwells when she approached, left meetings early, turned his face away in hallways. But now she'd summoned him directly, and there was nowhere left to hide. Inside that office waited a woman whose face looked exactly like his dead wife's, a resemblance so perfect it shattered him every single time. What Nathan didn't know was that the truth waiting behind that door would be far more devastating than anything he could imagine. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far this story travels. And if you stay until the end, you'll discover why some coincidences are too impossible to be accidents. Now, let's begin. The November morning pressed cold against the windows of Carter and Associates Architecture, the kind of Carolina autumn chill that settled into bones and stayed there. Nathan Carter sat at his drafting desk on the 14th floor, pretending to review blueprints for a museum renovation while his mind wandered somewhere far away, somewhere it always wandered when he let his guard down. 18 months. That's how long Lillian had been gone. 18 months since he'd found her collapsed in their kitchen, still wearing the yellow cardigan she'd pulled on to make breakfast. 18 months since their daughter Emma had come downstairs asking why Mommy wouldn't wake up. 18 months of empty chairs at the dinner table, of birthday candles blown out alone, of bedtime stories read in a voice that still cracked when he reached the happy endings. The grief had teeth. It wasn't the soft, noble sadness people wrote poems about. It was sharp and vicious, waiting in ordinary moments, in the scent of vanilla coffee, in the sound of rain against windows, in every single thing that reminded him she should still be there. Nathan had learned to function around it. He showed up to work, picked Emma up from school, made dinners from recipes he'd learned on YouTube because Lillian had always been the cook. He smiled when he needed to smile, nodded when colleagues asked how he was holding up, and carefully constructed a wall between himself and the rest of the world. That wall had held perfectly fine until 8 months ago. That's when Victoria Hale arrived. Nathan heard the whispers before he ever saw her. The firm had been struggling after the retirement of its founding partner, hemorrhaging clients to younger, flashier competitors. The board brought in Victoria Hale, a corporate restructuring specialist with a reputation for saving sinking ships. She was 42, Harvard-educated, and known for being brilliant, demanding, and completely uncompromising. The first time Nathan saw her was during the company-wide meeting introducing her as the new CEO. He'd been standing in the back of the conference room, half listening to the chairman's speech about exciting new directions and bold leadership for challenging times. Then Victoria Hale walked to the podium. Nathan's vision actually blurred. His chest constricted so violently he thought he was having a heart attack. Because standing at the front of that conference room, beneath the cold LED lights, was his wife. Not someone who resembled Lillian, not a woman with similar features. It was her, the same dark eyes that tilted slightly at the corners, the same elegant nose, the same mouth that curved just a little higher on the right side when she smiled. Even the way she stood, weight shifted to one hip with her shoulders back, was exactly how Lillian used to stand when she was thinking. Nathan grabbed the doorframe to steady himself. The room spun. Someone next to him asked if he was all right, but the words sounded like they were coming from underwater. It wasn't her. Of course it wasn't her. Lillian was buried in Elmwood Cemetery under a marble headstone Nathan visited every Sunday morning. This was a stranger, a coincidence, a cruel trick of genetics and probability. But knowing that didn't stop the pain. Nathan left before the meeting ended. He walked straight to the men's room and locked himself in a stall, breathing in ragged gasps until the panic subsided. When he finally emerged, his reflection in the mirror looked hollow, dark circles under gray-blue eyes, face pale, jaw clenched tight. He'd splashed cold water on his face and made a decision: avoid Victoria Hale completely. It should have been simple. The CEO worked on the 20th floor in the executive suite. Nathan worked on 14 with the design team. Their worlds didn't need to intersect. He could keep his head down, do his job, and never get close enough to that woman to feel the knife twist of resemblance again. For 8 months, he'd mostly succeeded. Nathan developed a sixth sense for Victoria's presence. He learned her schedule, when she arrived, always before 7, when she typically toured the office floors, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, which conference rooms she preferred for meetings. He memorized the rhythm of her heels in the hallway, distinctly different from anyone else's walk. When she appeared unexpectedly in the break room, Nathan would suddenly remember urgent business elsewhere. When she joined a project meeting, he'd position himself at the opposite end of the table, eyes locked on his laptop screen. During company events, he lingered at the edges, ready to slip out side exits. His colleagues noticed. Of course they noticed. "You're being weird," his friend Marcus had said just last week. They'd been grabbing lunch in the cafeteria when Marcus nodded toward the executive table where Victoria sat with the CFO. "She's been here 8 months, and I don't think you've said 10 words to her." "I don't have any reason to talk to the CEO," Nathan had replied, carefully not looking in that direction. "Most people are trying to get FaceTime with her. She's brilliant, turned the whole company around. We're actually profitable again." Marcus paused. "She asked about you, you know." Nathan's sandwich turned to ash in his mouth. "What?" "Last month, during the design review, she asked who led the museum project. When I said it was you, she asked if you were the same Nathan Carter who'd won the Regional Design Award 3 years ago." Marcus grinned. "I think she's impressed with your work." "Great," Nathan had said flatly. "So maybe stop treating her like she's got the plague. Just a thought." Nathan had changed the subject, but the conversation lodged in his chest like a splinter. Victoria had asked about him. She'd noticed his absence, his avoidance, and if Marcus had picked up on his strange behavior, others had too. He needed to be more careful. But being careful became impossible on that cold Thursday morning when his desk phone rang and the executive assistant's voice came through the speaker. "Mr. Carter, Miss Hale would like to see you in her office. Are you available now?" Nathan's hand froze on the receiver. I'm in the middle of something. Can we schedule?" "She'd like to see you now, if possible." There it was. The polite phrasing that wasn't really a request. Nathan's heart hammered against his ribs. "Of course. I'll be right up." He hung up and stared at his computer screen without seeing it. In 8 months, he'd successfully avoided any one-on-one interaction with Victoria Hale. Now she'd summoned him directly to her office, and there was no escape route that wouldn't look like outright insubordination. Marcus rolled his chair over from the neighboring desk. "You okay, man? You look like you've seen a ghost." The accuracy of that statement was almost funny. Nathan stood, straightening his tie with hands that felt numb. "Hale wants to see me." "Probably about the museum project. That's a huge deal for the firm." Marcus clapped him on the shoulder. "Don't sweat it. She's tough but fair." Nathan nodded mechanically and walked toward the elevator, each step feeling like moving through deep water. Other employees passed him in the hallway, laughing, talking, living normal Thursday mornings where seeing their boss didn't reopen psychological wounds. The elevator ride to the 20th floor took 43 seconds. Nathan counted everyone. The executive suite was all glass and steel, modern and cold. Victoria's assistant, a sharp-eyed woman named Jennifer, looked up from her desk and smiled. "Mr. Carter, go right in. She's expecting you." The door to Victoria's office was solid oak, heavy and imposing. Nathan stood in front of it, hand raised to knock, trying to pull together the shattered pieces of his composure. This was just a meeting, just a conversation with his boss. He was a professional with over a decade of experience at this firm. He could handle 15 minutes in an office. He knocked. "Come in." The voice was wrong. Lower than Lillian's with a subtle accent Nathan couldn't quite place. That small difference should have helped. It didn't. Nathan pushed open the door. Victoria Hale's office occupied the corner of the building, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of Charlotte's skyline. Morning light poured in, catching on the glass desk, the minimalist furniture, the architectural awards lining one wall. And there, backlit by the November sun, stood the woman who looked exactly like his dead wife. She wore a charcoal suit, her dark hair pulled back in a style Lillian never wore, professional and severe. But the face. God, the face was identical. The same bone structure, the same eyes that seemed to look straight through pretense into truth. "Nathan Carter," Victoria gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Thank you for coming up. Please, sit." Nathan forced his legs to move. He sat, gripping the arms of the chair to keep his hands steady, and fixed his gaze on a point just past Victoria's left shoulder. If he didn't look directly at her face, maybe he could breathe normally. I wanted to talk to you about the museum project, Victoria began, settling into her own chair. The client was very impressed with your presentation last week. You did excellent work. Thank you. Nathan's voice came out rough. He cleared his throat. The team put in a lot of effort. I've reviewed your portfolio. You have a distinctive aesthetic, modern lines, but with an understanding of historical context. It's rare to find someone who can balance both. This was fine. This was just professional praise. Nathan could do this. I appreciate that. A pause. Nathan kept his eyes trained on the skyline behind her, watching a plane trace a white line across the blue. Nathan! Victoria's tone shifted, becoming quieter, more personal. Why do you keep avoiding me? The question landed like a physical blow. Nathan's carefully constructed composure cracked. His eyes snapped to her face before he could stop himself, and there she was, looking at him with an expression of genuine confusion and something else. Concern, maybe. I don't... Nathan started, but the lie died on his tongue. She deserved better than that. I'm not avoiding you. You leave rooms when I enter them. You've never made eye contact with me, not once in 8 months. During meetings, you position yourself as far from me as possible. Victoria leaned forward slightly. If I've done something to offend you, I'd like to know what it is. Nathan's throat closed. The morning light caught her face at an angle, highlighting the exact curve of her cheekbone that Lillian had, and the room tilted. You haven't done anything wrong, he managed. Then why does it feel like you can't stand to be in the same room with me? The directness of the question, the honesty in her eyes, cut through Nathan's defenses. He was so tired. Tired of carrying this alone, tired of pretending, tired of running. Because, Nathan said quietly, looking at you hurts. Victoria went very still. The confusion on her face shifted to something sharper, a alertness, like she was seeing him clearly for the first time. What do you mean? Nathan closed his eyes. He could walk out right now. Make an excuse. Leave. File for a transfer to a different department. Keep running the way he'd been running for 18 months. But something in Victoria's voice, the gentleness underneath the professional exterior, made him stay. My wife died, Nathan said, opening his eyes. 18 months ago. Sudden cardiac arrest. She was 36 years old. He forced himself to look at Victoria directly, to really see her. And you look exactly like her. The words hung as the air between them. Victoria's face went pale. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stared at Nathan with an expression he couldn't read. Not similar, Nathan continued, the words spilling out now that he'd started. Not, you remind me of her. You look exactly like Lillian. The same eyes, the same face, even the way you tilt your head when you're listening. It's identical. His voice cracked. Every time I see you, it's like she's standing there. And it kills me all over again. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria's hand had moved to her throat, fingers pressed against the hollow there. Her eyes were wide, and Nathan realized with distant surprise that they were glistening with tears. What was her name? Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. Lillian. Lillian Carter. Nathan paused. She was adopted. Her birth name was Lillian Grace Thorne. The color drained completely from Victoria's face. She stood abruptly, her chair rolling backward, and turned to face the windows. Her shoulders rose and fell with deep, controlled breaths. Nathan stood too, alarmed. Are you all right? Thorne, Victoria said to the glass. Her birth name was Thorne. Yes, she was adopted when she was 7 by the Carter family. They're wonderful people. They gave her everything. But she always wondered about her birth family. Nathan took a step closer. Ms. Hale. Victoria turned around, and Nathan saw that tears were streaming down her face. Silent, shocked tears that she didn't seem to notice. My name, she said, her voice shaking. My full name is Victoria Grace Hale, but I was born Victoria Grace Thorne. The words didn't make sense at first. Nathan's brain tried to process them, to find the logical connection, but they slipped away like water through fingers. Then understanding hit him like a freight train. No, Nathan breathed. I had a sister. Victoria's words tumbled out fast, unsteady. A younger sister. We were separated when I was 9 and she was 7. Our parents divorced. It was ugly, contested. My mother took me, my father took her. The court sealed the adoption records when she was placed with a new family. She pressed her palm flat against her chest. I spent 20 years looking for her. 20 years. Nathan's legs gave out. He sat down hard in the chair, his vision swimming. 3 years ago, Victoria continued, her voice breaking, I finally found a match through a DNA registry. A woman named Lillian Carter. We started talking, emails at first, then phone calls. We were so careful, taking it slow, because we didn't want to rush something we'd both wanted for so long. She wiped at her eyes with shaking hands. We met in person. Once. One weekend, 18 months ago, here in Charlotte. She told me about her life, about her husband Nathan, about her daughter Emma. She showed me pictures. Nathan couldn't breathe. The room was spinning, reality fracturing into impossible pieces. She talked about you constantly, Victoria whispered, about how you'd met in college, about the home you'd built together, about how you drew blueprints for imaginary houses during boring lectures, and she fell in love with your dreams. A sob caught in her throat. She was going to introduce us, the next visit. She wanted Emma to meet her aunt, wanted you to meet the sister she'd just found. She was so happy. Stop, Nathan said, but it came out as barely a sound. Then she stopped answering my calls. Victoria's face crumpled. I tried for weeks. I thought maybe she'd changed her mind, decided reconnecting was too complicated. I gave her space, and then I saw the obituary. She covered her mouth with her hand. Lillian Grace Carter, beloved wife and mother. I was too late. I'd finally found her, and I was too late. The room was too small, the air too thin. Nathan stood again, pacing to the windows, pressing his forehead against the cold glass. Lillian had a sister. His wife had found her long-lost sister and never told him. No, that wasn't right. She had told him. He remembered now, vaguely, in those last few weeks. Lillian had been excited about something, had mentioned connecting with family, had said she had a surprise for him. But Nathan had been busy with a major project deadline, had smiled and nodded and said, "That's wonderful, honey," without really listening. He'd thought she meant distant cousins or finding old friends from childhood. He'd never imagined this. "You didn't know," Victoria said behind him. "When you took this job, when I was hired, you had no idea I was her sister." "No." Nathan's breath fogged the glass. "I knew she'd found someone. I didn't know it was you. I didn't know your name, what you looked like. She was planning to tell me everything, to introduce us properly." His voice broke. "She died before she could. And I took a job at your firm 8 months ago, completely unaware that you were the man my sister loved." Victoria let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "I thought your name sounded familiar when I reviewed the employee roster, but Nathan Carter isn't exactly unique. I never made the connection." Nathan turned around. Victoria was still crying, tears cutting tracks through her professional composure, and the sight of her, this woman who was a stranger and also his wife's sister, who carried Lillian's face in a cruel twist of fate, shattered something in his chest. "She loved you so much," Victoria said. "In that one weekend we had together, she must have said your name 100 times. Nathan did this, Nathan said that, Nathan makes Emma laugh like this. She was so proud of you, so grateful for the life you'd built together." "I didn't know she'd found you," Nathan said, his own tears finally breaking free. "I didn't know she was that happy. I was working too much, not paying enough attention. She tried to tell me, and I missed it." "She knew you loved her." Victoria's voice was fierce despite the tears. That came through in every single word she said. She knew. They stood there in the corner office, two people united by the same devastating loss, and cried for the woman they'd both loved and lost. Outside the windows, Charlotte continued its ordinary Thursday. Cars moved through streets, people walked to meetings, the world turned exactly as it always had. But inside that office, everything had changed. After a long time, Victoria moved to her desk and pulled tissues from a drawer, handing half the box to Nathan. They both sat, wiping their faces, breathing in shaky synchronization. "I don't know what to do with this," Nathan finally said. "I don't know how to process it." "Neither do I." Victoria's professional mask had completely dissolved, leaving someone raw and real. For 8 months, I've been running this company, making decisions, maintaining authority. And the whole time, the man I'd been hoping to meet, my sister's husband, was hiding from me because my face was causing him pain.
I'm sorry, Nathan said. I should have. No, Victoria cut him off gently. You were grieving. You are grieving. I understand completely why you needed distance. She looked down at her hands. I just wish we'd known. I wish we'd figured it out sooner. What happens now? Nathan asked. The question felt enormous, impossible to answer. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I think we sit with this, let it settle, and then maybe... She looked up at him with eyes that were Lillian's eyes, but also entirely her own. Maybe we talk about her, about Lillian, because I only got one weekend with my sister, and you had years with your wife, and between us we might be able to hold on to her memory together. Something in Nathan's chest loosened slightly. She would have liked that. She would have insisted on it. A small smile touched Victoria's mouth, the same crooked smile that Lillian had.
From what I learned in our conversations, she hated when people kept feelings bottled up. She would have forced us to talk through this awkwardness immediately. Nathan felt the ghost of a laugh. That's accurate. Lillian couldn't stand unresolved tension. She used to make me talk through every argument, every concern, even when all I wanted was to retreat into silence. She told me about that. Victoria's smile widened slightly. She said you were brilliant and kind, but occasionally stubborn as a mule. Also accurate. They sat and shared silence, and for the first time in 8 months, Nathan didn't feel the need to run from Victoria's presence. The pain of resemblance was still there. He didn't think that would ever fully disappear, but it was joined now by something else. Connection. Understanding. The strange comfort of sitting with someone who missed the same person. I have a photo, Victoria said quietly, from that weekend. The only photo we took together. Would you like to see it? Nathan's throat tightened, but he nodded. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolled through her photos, and turned the screen toward him. There they were. 2 women sitting on a park bench, arms around each other, faces bright with joy. Lillian on the left in the yellow cardigan she'd loved, Victoria on the right, in casual clothes Nathan had never seen her wear. Sisters. The resemblance was stunning. Anyone would have known they were related. But they weren't identical. Looking at them together, Nathan could see the differences. Victoria's face was slightly longer, her eyes a shade darker. Lillian's smile was wider, more open. They shared features, shared blood, but they were distinct people. She looks happy, Nathan whispered. She was. We both were. Victoria pulled the phone back, looking at the image. That was the best day of my adult life. After 20 years of searching, I'd finally found her. I wish I'd been there. Me too. Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, glancing at the screen. A text from Emma's school. Parent-teacher conferences next week. Please confirm attendance. The ordinary demands of life. Continuing regardless of earth-shattering revelations. I should go, Nathan said, though he didn't move. I'm sure you have meetings. Victoria glanced at her computer screen. 3 of them, all rescheduled now. She looked back at Nathan. This is more important. Your assistant is going to think something's wrong. Something is wrong, or right, or both. Victoria stood, straightening her suit jacket in a gesture that was pure professional instinct. Nathan, I want you to know your position here is secure. What we discussed today doesn't change your job, your projects, your standing at the firm. This is personal, not professional. I appreciate that. Nathan stood too. But I imagine there will be questions. Office gossip. Let them gossip. I've dealt with worse. Victoria moved around her desk, stopping a few feet from Nathan. I spent 20 years looking for my sister. I'm not going to let corporate politics dictate whether I can have a relationship with the family she left behind. The words hit Nathan harder than he expected. Family. Was that what they were now? Related through tragedy and shared loss, connected by a woman who wasn't here anymore? Emma, Nathan said suddenly. My daughter, she's 8. She never knew Lillian had found you. She doesn't know she has an aunt. Victoria's eyes widened. Does she look like both of you? Dark hair, same eyes. Every day she looks more like her mother. I'd like to meet her, someday, when you're ready.
Victoria's voice was careful, not pushing.
If that's something you'd want? Nathan thought about Emma, who still cried sometimes for her mother, who kept Lillian's photo on her nightstand and talked to it before bed. The daughter who'd asked just last week if Mommy could see her from heaven, if she was proud of the A she'd gotten on her spelling test. I think Lillian would want that, Nathan said. Not right away. This is a lot to process, but someday. Whenever you're ready, there's no rush. Victoria walked him to the door.
Nathan, thank you for telling me the truth,
For not running this time.
thank you for asking the question.
Nathan paused with his hand on the doorknob. I spent 8 months avoiding you because you reminded me of everything I lost. I didn't realize you'd lost her too. We both did. Victoria's expression was open, vulnerable in a way Nathan suspected she rarely allowed. But maybe we don't have to carry that loss alone anymore. Nathan nodded and stepped into the hallway. Jennifer, the assistant, looked up, clearly curious about the length of the meeting and the state of Nathan's eyes, which he knew must be red from crying. He didn't care. The elevator ride down felt different than the ride up, lighter somehow, despite the weight of everything he now knew. When Nathan returned to his desk, Marcus immediately rolled over. Well, how'd it go? Nathan sat down, turning on his computer screen without really seeing it. It went fine. We talked about the museum project. For an hour and a half? Had it been that long? Nathan glanced at the clock. It had been longer, nearly 2 hours. We talked about other things too, Nathan said vaguely. Marcus studied him. You okay, man? You look like you've been through something. I have, Nathan met his friend's eyes, but I think I'm going to be all right. It wasn't entirely true yet. The grief was still there, sharp and present. The shock of discovery still reverberated through his system. And looking at Victoria would probably always carry an edge of pain. But for the first time in 18 months, Nathan felt like maybe he didn't have to face it all alone. His phone buzzed again. An email this time from Victoria's address. The subject line read simply, "Thank you." Nathan opened it. Nathan, I've been thinking about our conversation. I have some things of Lillian's, letters she sent me, emails we exchanged, photos from that weekend. I'd like to share them with you if you want them. She talked about you and Emma so much. You should have those words. Also, I found a recipe she emailed me. Apparently it was your favorite meal, and she was trying to perfect it as a surprise for your anniversary. If you'd like it, I can forward that too. Take whatever time you need. I'll be here when you're ready. V. Nathan's eyes burned. He typed a response with shaking hands.
Victoria, yes. I'd like all of it. Thank you. And there's something you should know. Lillian kept a journal. I haven't been able to read it since she died, but I think it might mention you, mention finding you. If you want to see it someday, it's yours as much as it's mine. N. The response came back almost immediately. We'll read it together. Nathan sat back in his chair staring at those 4 words. Together. He'd been so alone for so long that he'd forgotten what that word meant. But maybe he was about to remember. That night, Nathan sat in his car in the driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. The house was a modest 2-story colonial in a quiet neighborhood. The kind of place where kids still rode bikes in the street and neighbors knew each other's names. Lillian had fallen in love with it the moment they toured it 7 years ago, pregnant with Emma and dreaming of a nursery painted in soft yellows. Nathan could see Emma through the living room window, curled up on the couch doing homework, while Mrs. Patterson, their neighbor who watched her after school, folded laundry nearby. Normal, safe, unchanged. How was he supposed to walk in there and pretend everything was still the same? His phone sat in the cup holder, Victoria's emails glowing on the screen. She'd sent 3 more since this afternoon, scanned letters Lillian had written, photos from their weekend together, a voice message Lillian had left talking about bringing Emma to meet her aunt. Nathan hadn't listened to the voice message yet. He wasn't sure he could handle hearing Lillian's voice right now, not with everything else crashing through his mind. The front door opened. Mrs. Patterson waved at him, concern evident even from this distance. Nathan forced himself out of the car. "Sorry I'm late," he said, climbing the porch steps. "Meeting ran long." "No trouble at all. Emma's been an angel." Mrs. Patterson gathered her purse, lowering her voice. "Are you all right, dear? You look pale." "Just a long day. Nathan managed a smile. Thank you for staying. After she left, Nathan found Emma sprawled on the floor now, her math worksheet abandoned in favor of a drawing. She looked up when he entered, and Nathan's heart clenched. Victoria was right. Emma looked more like Lillian every day. Same dark hair falling past her shoulders, same thoughtful expression when she concentrated. Daddy! She scrambled up and hugged him. You're late! Mrs. Patterson made tuna casserole, but I told her we don't like tuna casserole. Very diplomatic of you. Nathan held her tight, breathing in the apple-scented shampoo she insisted on using. What are you drawing? A house. See? It has a tower, and secret rooms, and a library like in Beauty and the Beast. She held up the paper proudly. Can you build houses like this in real life? Maybe a smaller version? Nathan studied the elaborate castle she'd sketched. You're getting really good at perspective. Emma beamed. At 8 years old, she was already showing signs of his spatial thinking, his love of structures and design. Lillian used to joke that they'd created a tiny architect. Lillian, who'd had a sister, who'd found Victoria and planned to bring their family together and died before any of it could happen. Dad? You're making your sad face again. Nathan blinked. Emma was watching him with knowing eyes that seemed far too old for 8. Sorry, sweetheart. Just tired. He ruffled her hair. How about pizza for dinner? Can we get the one with the weird vegetables you like? Roasted vegetables are not weird. They're weird. But Emma was grinning. Nathan ordered the pizza and they ate in the living room, Emma chattering about her day, about the boy who'd brought a frog to class, about her friend Sophie's upcoming birthday party, about the book report due next week. Normal things. Easy things. After dinner, Emma took her bath while Nathan cleaned the kitchen. He moved through the familiar motions mechanically, his mind spinning through the day's revelations. The strangest part wasn't the shock of discovery anymore. It was the strange sense of rightness underneath it, like a puzzle piece had clicked into place that he hadn't even known was missing. Victoria was Lillian's sister. The resemblance that had tortured him for 8 months wasn't random cruelty. It was genetics, family, connection. And Lillian had known, had been excited, had wanted to share this discovery with him and Emma. Daddy, I'm ready for bed. Nathan went upstairs. Emma's room was still decorated the way Lillian had designed it. Pale purple walls, glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, bookshelves overflowing with stories. On the nightstand sat the photo Emma kept there, Lillian holding infant Emma in the hospital, both of them looking exhausted and perfect. Nathan tucked her in, pulling the covers up to her chin the way she liked. Can you tell me a mommy story? Emma asked quietly. This was their routine. Every few nights, Emma would ask for a story about Lillian, and Nathan would share a memory, carefully edited for an 8-year-old, focused on the happy moments. Tonight, though, Nathan hesitated. What kind of story? A one about how you met. Nathan settled on the edge of her bed. I've told you that one before. I know, but I like it. Emma twisted a strand of hair around her finger, a nervous habit she'd inherited from her mother. Sometimes I'm scared I'm going to forget her voice. The stories help me remember. Nathan's throat tightened. You won't forget her voice, sweetheart. I promise. How do you know? Because I haven't, Nathan thought. Because 18 months later I can still hear exactly how she laughed, how she said my name when she was annoyed, how she sang off key in the shower. Because she's part of you, Nathan said instead. In your face, in your smile, in the way you draw houses with secret rooms. She's always going to be with you. Emma seemed satisfied with this. Okay, now tell the story. So Nathan did. He told her about college, about the boring architecture lecture where he'd been doodling blueprints in his notebook, about the girl who'd sat down next to him and asked what he was drawing, about how Lillian had looked at his imaginary designs and said, "These are beautiful. You're going to build amazing things someday." And you fell in love right then, Emma finished, knowing the ending. Not quite right then, but soon after. And then you got married and had me and lived happily ever after. Emma's voice got quieter. Except Mommy died. Except that, Nathan agreed softly, but the happy part was still real. All of it was real. Emma was quiet for a moment, then, do you think Mommy's happy where she is? The question landed hard. Nathan thought about heaven and afterlife and all the things people said at funerals that were supposed to be comforting.
But Emma was looking at him with Lillian's eyes, waiting for real truth, not platitudes.
I think, Nathan said carefully, that wherever your mom is, she's probably annoyed that she's missing watching you grow up, because that's what she wanted most in the world. Emma smiled a little. Yeah, she'd probably be telling me to stop slouching and eat more vegetables. Definitely. I miss her. Me too, baby. Every single day.
Emma rolled over, clutching the stuffed elephant Lillian had given her for her 5th birthday. Good night, Daddy. Good night, sweetheart. Nathan turned off the light but left the door cracked open, spilling hallway light across the carpet. He stood there for a moment, watching his daughter settle into sleep, and thought about Victoria's email, about the aunt Emma didn't know she had, about the family connection that had been waiting to be discovered. Not tonight.
Tonight, Emma needed normal bedtime routines and familiar stories, but soon Nathan would have to figure out how to explain that the family had grown in the strangest, most painful way possible. Downstairs, Nathan poured himself a whiskey he didn't really want and sat in the dark living room. His laptop sat on the coffee table, and after a moment's hesitation, he opened it. Victoria's emails were waiting. Nathan started with the letters.
The first one was dated 3 years ago, shortly after Lillian and Victoria had matched on the DNA registry. Lillian's handwriting, neat and precise, covered the page in blue ink. Dear Victoria, I've started this letter 5 times and I still don't know what to say. How do you write to a sister you don't remember? How do you compress 28 years into a single page? I'll start simple. I'm happy we found each other. I've wondered about you my whole life. My adopted parents, Mom and Dad Carter, were wonderful, but there was always a piece missing. A sense that somewhere out there was someone who shared my blood, my history, my beginning. The agency said you've been looking for me. That makes me feel less alone in this strange need to know where I came from. I'm married. I have a husband named Nathan who builds beautiful buildings and makes terrible jokes. We have a daughter named Emma who's 5 and brilliant and stubborn. My life is good, full, but incomplete without knowing you. Can we talk? I'd like to hear your voice. Your sister, Lillian. Nathan read the letter 3 times, tears blurring the words. Lillian had kept this from him, not out of secrecy, but because she'd wanted to be sure, wanted to take it slow and careful before bringing him into it. The next email contained Victoria's response. Lillian, I've read your letter so many times the paper is wearing thin at the creases. You asked how to compress 28 years into a page. I don't think we can. I think it's going to take years of conversations, thousands of pages, lifetimes of making up for lost time. I remember you, though I was only 9. I remember a little girl with dark hair who followed me everywhere. I remember my mother crying when they took you away. I remember searching for you every time I saw a dark-haired girl on the street for years afterward. I never stopped looking. Yes, let's talk. Call me anytime. I want to know everything about Nathan, about Emma, about the life you built. And I want to tell you about mine, about the years of searching, about the moment I saw your name in the registry and knew I'd finally found you. I have so many questions, but mostly I just want to hear your voice too. Your sister, Victoria. Nathan set the laptop aside and covered his face with his hands. This was what Lillian had been protecting, this fragile new relationship with the sister she'd just found. She'd wanted to be certain before she told him, wanted to build something solid before introducing it to the rest of her life. And then she died, and none of it had mattered. His phone rang, Victoria's name on the screen. Nathan answered. Hello. I'm sorry for calling so late. Victoria's voice was rough, like she'd been crying. I've been going through more emails and I keep finding things and I don't know if I should send them all or if it's too much or... Send them, Nathan said. All of it. I want to know. Okay. A pause. Nathan, I keep thinking about that weekend, the one time we met. Lillian was so excited about introducing us, about bringing Emma to meet me. She had it all planned, a trip to the park, lunch at her favorite restaurant, showing me your house. Victoria's voice broke. She talked about you like you hung the moon. She was exaggerating. She wasn't. She told me about the time you designed a treehouse for Emma and spent 3 weekends building it even though you were terrified of heights. About how you learned to braid her hair from YouTube videos so Emma could have fancy hairstyles for school. About how you still brought her coffee in bed every Sunday morning. Nathan's eyes burned. I still make the coffee. I just don't have anyone to bring it to.
I know. Victoria was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? That day in my office, you said, looking at me hurts. Does it still hurt now that you know? Nathan considered this. The resemblance was still there, still striking, but the context had changed everything. It's different now. You're not a stranger wearing her face anymore. You're her sister, your family. Family, Victoria repeated softly. I've been alone for so long that word feels strange. Me too. They sat in companionable silence, the phone line connecting two people who'd been orbiting the same loss without knowing it. I want to meet Emma, Victoria said. Not right away. I know this is overwhelming and she's just a child, but eventually she's my niece, the only family I have left. She's going to have questions, Nathan warned. She's 8. Everything needs an explanation. I'll answer whatever she asks. She might not understand at first. The resemblance to Lillian, it might confuse her. We'll figure it out together. Victoria paused. Nathan, I know this is complicated. I know I'm your boss and that alone creates problems, but I don't want to lose this. I spent 20 years looking for my sister, and now that I've found the family she left behind, I can't just walk away from it. I'm not asking you to, Nathan said. I'm just saying we need to be careful, for Emma's sake. Of course. Nathan heard something in the background on Victoria's end. Music, maybe, or television. Where are you? My apartment. It's too quiet here. Victoria laughed without humor. I moved to Charlotte specifically because this is where Lillian lived. I thought maybe I could feel closer to her here. Stupid, right? Not stupid. Nathan looked around his own house, filled with Lillian's choices. The paint colors she'd picked, the furniture she'd arranged, the photos she'd hung on the walls. I understand wanting to be near something of hers. I have her favorite coffee cup, Victoria admitted, from that weekend. She left it at my hotel room, and I kept it. I've been drinking from it every morning for 18 months, and until today I thought it was the only piece of her I'd ever have. Nathan's chest ached. You can have more than a coffee cup. You can have the stories, the memories. You can have... He stopped, unsure how to say it. What? Victoria prompted gently. You can have us, Nathan finished. Emma and me, if you want. The silence on the other end was absolute. Then Victoria's voice thick with tears. I want that more than anything. They talked for another hour. Victoria told him about growing up, about the different foster homes after her mother died, about putting herself through college and law school. Nathan told her about the early years with Lillian, about Emma's birth, about building a life in Charlotte. When they finally hung up, it was past midnight. Nathan sat in the dark living room, exhausted but somehow lighter. The grief was still there. He didn't think that weight would ever fully lift. But it was shared now, carried by someone who understood it in a way no one else could. The next morning, Nathan woke to find Emma already dressed for school, eating cereal at the kitchen table. You slept late, she observed. Are you sick? Just tired. Nathan poured coffee, his mind still fuzzy. What do you want for lunch today? Can I have the good crackers? Sophie's mom always packs the good crackers, and mine are boring. I'll get the good crackers. Nathan made a mental note to actually figure out which crackers were considered good. At work, Nathan found it impossible to concentrate. He kept checking his email, finding new messages from Victoria. More photos, more letters, more pieces of Lillian's secret life with her sister. Each one felt like a gift and a wound at the same time. Marcus noticed. Okay, seriously, what's going on with you? You've been weird since that meeting with Hale yesterday. Nathan looked at his friend, his closest friend at the firm, someone he'd known for 7 years. The urge to tell him everything was overwhelming, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he explain something this impossible? Just personal stuff, Nathan said finally. Family things. Everything okay with Emma? Emma's fine. It's complicated. Marcus studied him. You know you can talk to me, right? If you need to. I know, I'm still processing it myself. That afternoon, Nathan received a call from the front desk. Mr. Carter, there's a delivery for you. Confused, Nathan went downstairs. The receptionist handed him a small box wrapped in plain brown paper.
No return address, but his name was written in elegant script on the tag. Back at his desk, Nathan opened it carefully. Inside was a leather-bound journal, old, worn, the pages yellowed with age. A note lay on top in Victoria's handwriting. Nathan, this was our mother's journal. My mother, Lillian's mother. I found it years ago when I was sorting through her things after she died. I've read it 100 times, looking for clues about what happened to Lillian after the divorce. There's an entry from the day they took Lillian away. I think you should read it. It explains things I didn't understand until now. Keep it as long as you need. V. Nathan opened the journal to the marked page. The entry was dated 29 years ago. They took my baby girl today. The court said Robert gets custody, full custody, like I'm some kind of monster who can't be trusted with her own child. Victoria cried herself sick when they left. She kept asking when Lily is coming home. I don't know how to tell her that Lily isn't coming home, that her father is petitioning to have Lily adopted, to erase us completely from her life. I fought so hard, but Robert has money and lawyers and a new wife who looks perfect on paper. And I have nothing but 2 jobs and an apartment that's too small and a history of depression they twisted into evidence of instability. I failed my daughters. Victoria will grow up with half her heart missing, and Lily will grow up not knowing she ever had a sister who loved her. I hope someday they'll find each other. I hope they'll forgive me for not being strong enough to keep them together. Nathan closed the journal, his hands shaking. The weight of it, the generations of loss and searching and grief, felt crushing. His phone buzzed. Emma's school. Mr. Carter, this is Principal Morrison. Emma's fine, but we had a small incident today. She got into an altercation with another student, and we need you to come pick her up. Nathan's heart sank. What kind of altercation? A physical one, I'm afraid. She pushed another child. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. Emma had never been in a fight in her life. Nathan grabbed his keys and headed for the door, calling Victoria on the way. I have to leave early. Emma's school called. There was some kind of fight. Is she okay? Victoria's concern was immediate. I don't know yet. I'll call you later. At the school, Nathan found Emma sitting in the principal's office, her face tear-stained and furious. Principal Morrison, a stern woman in her 50s, gestured Nathan into a chair. Mr. Carter, Emma pushed Madison Winters during recess. Madison fell and scraped her knee. We've already called Mrs. Winters. Nathan looked at his daughter. Emma? What happened? Emma's jaw set in a stubborn line he recognized from every argument she'd ever lost. Madison said Mommy didn't love us because if she did, she wouldn't have died. The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. He saw Principal Morrison wince. Emma, that doesn't give you the right to push someone, Morrison said gently. She said it was Mommy's fault for being weak. Emma's voice rose. She said healthy people don't just die and that maybe Mommy did something bad. And that's why... Okay, Nathan interrupted, pulling Emma into his arms. She was shaking, all fury and 8-year-old righteous anger. Okay, sweetheart. I'm sorry, Morrison said quietly. I didn't realize the context was quite so... It's fine. Nathan kept his voice level through sheer force of will. What's the consequence? Given the circumstances, I think a warning is sufficient. But Emma, you need to understand that violence is never the answer. If someone says something hurtful, you tell a teacher. Emma nodded against Nathan's chest, but he could feel her resistance. She didn't agree. She thought Madison Winters deserved exactly what she'd gotten. In the car, Emma was silent. Nathan drove aimlessly, not ready to go home yet, not ready to have the conversation they needed to have. Finally, he pulled into a park, one Lillian used to take Emma to when she was younger. They sat on a bench near the playground, watching other kids swing and climb. You want to tell me what really happened? Nathan asked. Emma picked at a loose thread on her jacket. Madison's always mean. She makes fun of people. Today she was talking about how her mom made special cupcakes for her lunch, and I said I wished my mom could make me special things. And she said what I told Principal Morrison. And you got angry? She was wrong, Daddy. Mommy didn't die because she was weak or because she did something bad. It wasn't her fault. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Right? Right, Nathan said firmly. It absolutely wasn't her fault. Sometimes people's hearts just stop working. It doesn't mean they weren't strong or good or loving.
It just means something went wrong in their body. But why did it have to be Mommy? It was the question Nathan had asked himself 1,000 times. Why Lillian? Why his kind, vibrant wife who'd never hurt anyone? Why the woman who made everyone around her happier just by existing? I don't know, baby. I wish I had a better answer. Emma leaned against him. I miss her so much, it makes my chest hurt. Me too. They sat quietly, watching the world move around them. Finally, Emma said, Am I in a lot of trouble? You're grounded from TV for a week, and you owe Madison an apology, not for being angry, but for pushing her. That's not fair. She should apologize too. Maybe she should, but we can only control what we do, not what other people do. Emma sighed dramatically. Fine. On the drive home, Nathan thought about Victoria, about family secrets and lost connections, and the ways grief could isolate or bind people together. Emma deserved to know she had an aunt. She deserved to have more family, more connection, more people who carried Lillian's memory. But how did he explain something this complicated to an 8-year-old who'd just gotten in her first fight over defending her dead mother? That evening, after Emma was in bed, Nathan called Victoria. How is she? Victoria asked immediately. Nathan told her everything. The fight, Madison's cruel words, Emma's furious defense of Lillian's memory. She sounds like her mother, Victoria said softly. Lillian couldn't stand injustice either. Even as a child, she'd fight anyone who was mean to someone weaker. I don't know how to help her, Nathan admitted. Every time I think we're finding our footing, something reminds her what she lost, and it all falls apart again. You're doing the best you can. That's all anyone can do. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Then, I want to tell her about you. I don't know how yet, but she should know. She should know she has an aunt. Are you sure? Victoria's voice was careful. I don't want to complicate things. Everything is already complicated, but Emma needs more than just me. She needs family, and your family. Then we'll figure out how to tell her together, Victoria said. Whatever you need, however you want to do this, I'm here. After they hung up, Nathan went to Emma's room. She was asleep, but restless, her face scrunched in dreams that probably weren't peaceful. He sat on the edge of her bed and watched her, this fierce little person who carried so much of Lillian in her features and spirit. Your mom had a sister, Nathan whispered into the dark. She found her right before she died, and now we have her too. I'm going to tell you soon. I'm going to tell you that you have an aunt who looks just like Mommy and who's been missing her just as much as we have. Emma stirred but didn't wake. Nathan pulled the covers higher and kissed her forehead. Tomorrow he would figure out the right words. Tomorrow he would start bridging the gap between past and present, between loss and new connection. But tonight, he sat in his daughter's room and held on to the strange, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, they didn't have to carry this grief alone anymore. The following Saturday, Nathan woke to find Emma already at the kitchen table, carefully arranging her art supplies into precise rows. She'd inherited his need for order, everything in its place before beginning any project. What are you making? Nathan asked, pouring coffee. A family tree for school. We have to present it on Monday. Emma didn't look up from her markers. Mrs. Chen said we need to include grandparents and aunts and uncles and everyone. Nathan's hand froze on the coffee pot. Of course. Of course this would be the assignment that forced the conversation he'd been avoiding all week. That sounds like a good project, he managed. I don't have very many people to put on it. Emma selected a green marker, testing it on scrap paper. Grandma and Grandpa Carter. Grandma and Grandpa Foster on your side, but no aunts or uncles or cousins. Just me. The opening was there, perfect and terrible. Nathan sat down across from her, his coffee forgotten. Actually, sweetheart, there's something I need to tell you about that. Emma looked up, her dark eyes, Lillian's eyes, curious and guarded at the same time. What? Nathan had rehearsed this a dozen different ways over the past week. He'd called Victoria 3 times asking for advice, had drafted scripts in his head, had even considered bringing in a child psychologist to help explain. But sitting here now, facing his daughter's expectant expression, all the careful words evaporated. Your mom had a sister, Nathan said simply. A sister she didn't know about for most of her life. Emma's marker stilled. What do you mean? Your mom was adopted, you know that.
But what we didn't know, what I didn't know until recently, was that before she was adopted, she had an older sister. They were separated when they were little kids. Why were they separated? Their parents got divorced and it was complicated. Sometimes adults make difficult choices that affect children. Nathan chose his words carefully. But your mom never forgot about her sister, and her sister never stopped looking for her. Emma set down the marker completely now, giving him her full attention. Did they find each other? They did. About 3 years ago. They started talking, getting to know each other again. Nathan's throat tightened. Your mom was really happy about it. She was planning to introduce you to her aunt, but then she died, Emma finished quietly. Yes. Emma was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then, what's her name? The aunt? Victoria. Where is she? This was the hard part. Nathan took a breath. She lives here, in Charlotte. She's been here for 8 months. Emma's eyes narrowed, that quick intelligence Lillian had possessed sharpening her gaze. 8 months? Why didn't you tell me before? Because I didn't know. Nathan leaned forward. Victoria and I didn't know we were connected. We didn't realize the connection until very recently. How could you not know? Didn't Mommy tell you about her? She was going to. She wanted to wait until everything was settled, until she was sure. But she died before she could tell me her sister's name or what she looked like or where she lived. Emma absorbed this, her small face serious. So how did you find out? Nathan hesitated. How much detail was too much? How much could an 8-year-old handle? I work with her, he said finally. Victoria works at my company. I've been seeing her around the office for months, but I didn't know who she was. And then she told you she was Mommy's sister? Not exactly. We figured it out together. Nathan reached across the table, taking Emma's hand. The thing is, sweetheart, Victoria looks a lot like your mom. They're sisters, so they have the same family face. Emma went very still. How much does she look like Mommy? A lot. Like, could I pretend it's Mommy? The question broke Nathan's heart. No, baby, she's her own person. She looks like Mommy, but she's not Mommy. She's Aunt Victoria. Emma pulled her hand back, her expression closing off in a way that reminded Nathan painfully of himself. I don't want to meet her. I don't want to meet some stranger who looks like Mommy, but isn't Mommy. That's weird, and it'll make me sad, and I don't want to. Her voice rose, defensive and scared. You can't make me. I'm not going to make you do anything, Nathan said gently. But Victoria is your family. She's your mom's sister, which makes her your aunt. And she really wants to meet you. Well, I don't want to meet her. Emma stood abruptly, knocking over her marker box. Colors rolled across the table. This is stupid. Why did you even tell me? Because you deserve to know you have more family. I don't need more family. I need my mom back. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I don't want some copy of her walking around pretending to be related to me. Emma. But she was already running upstairs, her footsteps heavy on the stairs, her bedroom door slamming hard enough to rattle the frames on the wall. Nathan sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by scattered markers, and dropped his head into his hands. That had gone even worse than he'd feared. His phone buzzed. Victoria. Is this a bad time? She asked when he answered. Emma knows. I told her this morning. Nathan started gathering the markers, needing something to do with his hands. She didn't take it well. What did she say? That she doesn't want to meet you, that it's weird and will make her sad. Nathan's voice was flat. She called you a copy of Lillian. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick. She's not wrong. I am a reminder of what she lost. Why would she want that? Because you're family. Because Lillian wanted you to know each other. Lillian's not here to want anything anymore, Victoria said softly. And I won't force myself on Emma if she's not ready. She's 8 years old and she's grieving her mother. I can wait. For how long? As long as it takes. When Nathan heard footsteps above his head, Emma pacing in her room, a habit she'd developed when upset. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you don't fix it. Maybe you just give her time to adjust to the idea. Victoria paused. Can I ask you something? Do you have any videos of Lillian? Talking, moving around. I have hundreds. Why?
Because Emma's afraid I'm going to be some uncanny copy of her mother. But if she could see Lillian and me together, side by side, she'd see that we're similar but different. That might make it less scary. Nathan considered this. That's actually not a bad idea. I could put something together, photos and videos from that weekend we spent together. Nothing pushy, just something that shows we're two separate people who happen to be sisters. Send it to me first. Let me preview it before I show Emma. Of course. After they hung up, Nathan climbed the stairs to Emma's room. He knocked softly. Go away, came the muffled response. Can I come in anyway? A pause. Then, I guess. Emma was curled on her bed, clutching the stuffed elephant, her face red and blotchy from crying. Nathan sat on the edge of the mattress. I'm sorry I sprung that on you, he said. I should have thought more about how to tell you. It's not your fault. Emma's voice was small. I just don't understand why this is happening. Why does everything have to keep changing? I know it feels like a lot. First Mommy died and everything changed. And just when I'm getting used to it being just us, now there's this aunt person and everything's going to change again. Emma sat up, hugging the elephant tight. I don't want more changes. I want things to stay the same. Nathan understood that desire more than she knew. The desperate need for stability, for one single thing to remain constant in a world that kept shifting beneath your feet. Change isn't always bad, he said, knowing the words were inadequate. Sometimes it brings good things too. Like what? Like having more family, like having someone else who loved your mom and can tell you stories about her that I don't know. Emma considered this, her young face grave. Does she really look exactly like Mommy? Very similar. Same eyes, same smile, but also different in a lot of ways. What ways? Nathan thought about it. Victoria's taller. Her voice is different, lower, more serious. She moves differently, holds herself differently. And her personality is nothing like your mom's. Victoria's more reserved, more careful. Your mom was warm and open with everyone. So she's like Mommy but sad and quiet? The description was oddly accurate. Something like that. Emma was quiet for a moment. Then, is she nice? I think so. I don't know her very well yet, but she loved your mom and she wants to know you. Because I'm Mommy's daughter. That's part of it, but also because you're you and you're her niece and that matters. Emma flopped back on her bed, staring at the glow-in-the-dark stars Lillian had stuck to the ceiling years ago. I don't know if I'm ready. That's okay. You don't have to be ready right now, but maybe you could think about it? Maybe. Emma rolled over to look at him. Are you going to see her, the aunt? Probably. She works at my company, so I see her anyway. But yes, I think we'll talk sometimes. About your mom, mostly. That's weird. It is weird, Nathan agreed. This whole situation is weird. But we'll figure it out together, okay? Emma nodded slowly. Can you stay for a while? I don't want to be alone. Nathan stretched out beside her on the narrow bed, and Emma curled into his side the way she used to when she was smaller. They lay there in comfortable silence, and Nathan thought about families, biological and chosen, lost and found, broken and rebuilt. That evening, Victoria sent the video compilation. Nathan watched it alone first, his laptop balanced on his knees in the quiet living room. The video opened with a photo of two little girls, maybe 9 and 7, arms around each other, gap-toothed smiles wide. The caption read, Victoria and Lillian, 1993, the last photo taken before we were separated. Then it jumped forward. Adult Victoria and adult Lillian, standing side by side at what looked like a park. The resemblance was stunning. Nathan's breath still caught even knowing to expect it. But Victoria was right. They were similar, not identical. Lillian's face was rounder, her expression more open. Victoria held herself with careful control, while Lillian radiated warmth even in stillness. A video clip played. The sisters walking together, talking animatedly. Nathan could hear Lillian's voice, that familiar cadence he'd thought he'd never hear again, and his eyes burned. I can't believe we're really here, Lillian was saying, gesturing broadly the way she always did when excited. I can't believe I found you. Victoria, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Victoria's response was quieter, more measured. I never stopped looking.
Not once in 20 years. I know. I read all your letters, all those years of searching. Lillian grabbed Victoria's hand. We have so much time to make up for. We have the rest of our lives. The video cut to still photos, the sisters having coffee, walking through gardens, sitting on a hotel room bed talking late into the night. In every image, their body language told the story. Lillian leaning in, animated and expressive. Victoria more contained but with a softness in her expression that Nathan had never seen in the office. The final clip was brief. Lillian looking directly at the camera, at Victoria holding the phone, with tears streaming down her face. I have a sister, she said, laughing and crying at the same time. I actually have a sister. I'm going to introduce you to Nathan and Emma, and you're going to be part of our family, and everything is perfect. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. The screen went black. Nathan closed the laptop and sat in the dark, letting the tears come. Lillian had been so happy. In those final weeks of her life, she'd been carrying this enormous joy, and he'd been too distracted to really see it. The guilt was crushing. The next morning, Nathan showed Emma the video. She watched in silence, her expression unreadable. When it ended, she asked to watch it again. And again. The third time through, Emma paused on the final image. Lillian's tear-streaked, happy face. She looks really happy, Emma said quietly. She was. She wanted me to know Aunt Victoria. She did. Emma was quiet for a long time. Then, I think I want to meet her, but not yet. Maybe in a while, is that okay? That's completely okay. Nathan hugged her. We'll take as much time as you need. But fate had different plans. Monday morning, Nathan was in a meeting when his phone buzzed with an urgent message from Victoria. Nathan, call me immediately. It's about the firm. He excused himself and dialed her number. What's wrong? Victoria's voice was tight, controlled. The board got an anonymous tip. Someone sent them information about our connection, about Lillian, about you being her husband, about the family relationship. They're calling an emergency meeting this afternoon to discuss potential conflicts of interest. Nathan's stomach dropped. Who would do that? I don't know. But whoever it is, they sent documentation. Copies of Lillian's adoption records, the DNA registry match, everything. Victoria paused. Nathan, they're questioning whether I hired you knowing about the connection, whether there's been any impropriety. That's insane. You didn't even know. Well, I know that, but they're concerned about appearances, about the optics of a CEO having a personal relationship with an employee, even a familial one. What does this mean? It means we both need to be at that meeting. It means we need to explain everything and hope the board believes us. Victoria's voice wavered slightly. Nathan, I'm so sorry. I never wanted this to affect your job. It's not your fault. I'll send you the meeting details. 2:00, top floor conference room. Bring any documentation you have about when you started at the firm, anything that proves you didn't know about me when you were hired. The meeting room was intimidating, all dark wood and leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The board members sat in a semicircle like judges, their expressions ranging from skeptical to openly hostile. Nathan recognized most of them. Richard Walsh, the chairman who'd been with the firm for 30 years. Margaret Chen, the CFO. David Brooks, head of the architecture division. And 3 others whose names Nathan knew, but whose departments he rarely interacted with. Victoria sat at one end of the table, her posture perfect, her face a professional mask. But Nathan could see the tension in her shoulders, the white knuckles of her hands folded on the table. Nathan took the seat beside her. Walsh cleared his throat. Thank you both for coming on short notice. I'm sure you understand why we need to address this situation immediately. Of course, Victoria said smoothly. We received documentation this morning suggesting a familial relationship between you and Mr. Carter. Specifically, that you are the biological sister of his late wife. Walsh opened a folder, scanning the contents. The timeline raises questions. Mr. Carter has been with this firm for 11 years. You joined 8 months ago. The connection was never disclosed during the hiring process. Because we didn't know about it, Victoria said. Neither of us knew until 10 days ago. Margaret Chen leaned forward. You expect us to believe that you didn't know Mr. Carter worked here when you accepted the CEO position? I reviewed the employee roster, of course. I saw Nathan Carter's name, but my sister's married name was Carter. An extremely common surname. I had no reason to connect the two.
Victoria's voice remained calm.
My sister and I had only reconnected briefly before her death. We'd met once, communicated primarily through email and phone calls. She mentioned her husband's name, but I never met him, never saw a photo of him, never learned where he worked. And you, Mr. Carter? Walsh turned his attention to Nathan. You claim you didn't know Miss.
Hale was your wife's sister?
I didn't know my wife had found her sister, Nathan said, surprised by how steady his voice sounded. Lillian was planning to tell me, to introduce us properly. She died before that could happen. I had no knowledge of Victoria Hale's existence until the day she confronted me about avoiding her in the office. David Brooks spoke up. Why were you avoiding her? Nathan met his eyes directly. Because she looks exactly like my dead wife. The resemblance is striking, genetic, obviously, since they're sisters. Every time I saw Ms. Hale in the office, it was psychologically difficult. I avoided her as a coping mechanism, not because I knew about any family connection. Convenient story, Brooks muttered. It's the truth, Victoria said sharply. And I have documentation to prove the timeline. Lillian and I reconnected 3 years ago through a DNA registry. We communicated for approximately 18 months before she died. I can provide the entire email chain, phone records, everything. Nathan Carter's name appears in those communications, but never as someone I would meet or interact with professionally. Walsh studied them both. The concern isn't just about when you knew. It's about the relationship itself. A CEO and an employee connected through family, even extended family, creates complications. Questions about favoritism, preferential treatment, conflicts of interest. I've had no special treatment, Nathan said. My projects are evaluated the same as any other architect's. My salary hasn't changed. My position hasn't changed. The only difference is that the CEO and I now acknowledge a family connection that existed before either of us worked here together. But you didn't disclose it once you discovered it, Chen pointed out. We discovered it 10 days ago, Victoria said. We were still processing the information ourselves. Neither of us has had time to consider the professional implications because we've been dealing with the personal ones. Walsh exchanged glances with the other board members. This puts the firm in a difficult position. We need to maintain ethical standards, avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Then investigate, Victoria said flatly. Review every project I've overseen since arriving. Check Nathan's performance evaluations, his salary history, his project assignments. You'll find nothing that suggests favoritism because there hasn't been any. The optics alone, the optics are that a woman found her long-lost sister only to lose her 18 months later, and then unknowingly took a job at the firm where her sister's widowed husband works. Victoria's professional mask cracked slightly, emotion bleeding through. The optics are tragic, not scandalous. And if this board can't see the difference, then perhaps I'm working for the wrong company.
Whoops.
The room went silent. Walsh sat back in his chair. Ms. Hale. No, let me finish. Victoria stood, her hands flat on the table. I came to this firm 8 months ago when it was hemorrhaging money and clients. I've turned the finances around, secured 3 major contracts, and rebuilt your reputation in the industry. I've worked 70-hour weeks and sacrificed every aspect of my personal life for this company. She gestured to Nathan. This man has given you 11 years of excellent work. He's won awards, brought in clients, and never once given you reason to question his integrity. And now you're suggesting that a family connection neither of us chose, neither of us knew about, somehow undermines all of that? We have to consider, Chen started. Consider this, Victoria interrupted. I spent 20 years searching for my sister. I found her, had 18 months of reconnection, and lost her. Finding out that her husband works here is the only piece of family I have left. And if this board forces me to choose between my job and maintaining a relationship with my niece, with my sister's child, her voice broke. I'll choose family every single time. The silence that followed was absolute. Nathan stared at Victoria, seeing her fully for the first time. Not as his boss, not as the woman who looked like Lillian, but as a person who'd been carrying her own grief and fighting her own battles while maintaining a perfect professional facade. Walsh cleared his throat. Let's take a 15-minute recess. Board members, private conference in my office. The board filed out, leaving Nathan and Victoria alone in the conference room. Victoria sank back into her chair, her hands shaking. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have lost control like that. You said exactly what needed to be said, Nathan replied. I might have just lost my job. If they fire you for this, they're idiots. Victoria laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. I meant what I said about choosing family. I know Emma's not ready to meet me, and I don't want to push, but the thought of losing even the possibility of knowing her, she pressed her palms to her eyes. I can't lose her too. You're not going to lose her, Nathan said firmly. Whatever happens with this job, whatever the board decides, you're not losing Emma or me. We're family now, and that's not going away. Victoria looked at him, tears streaming down her face, the same face Lillian had, wearing an expression of vulnerable hope that was entirely her own. You mean that? I mean it. The 15 minutes stretched to 30. Nathan and Victoria sat in tense silence, occasionally exchanging worried glances, but mostly lost in their own thoughts. When the board finally returned, their expressions were unreadable. Walsh resumed his seat. We've discussed the situation thoroughly. We've also made some calls to verify the timeline and documentation you've provided. He paused, and Nathan's heart hammered against his ribs. After careful consideration, we've determined that no conflict of interest exists. The relationship is familial but not close enough to warrant concern, and there's no evidence of preferential treatment or impropriety. Nathan felt the tension drain from his shoulders. However, Walsh continued, we do require disclosure going forward. Any future interactions between Ms. Hale and Mr. Carter that could be construed as preferential must be documented and justified. Mr. Carter's performance reviews will be conducted by Mr. Brooks rather than through the usual chain of command, and we expect both of you to maintain the highest standards of professionalism. Of course, Victoria said. Additionally, we'd like to know who sent the anonymous tip. This kind of information leak is concerning from a privacy standpoint. I'd like to know that too, Victoria said coldly. We'll be investigating, but for now, this matter is closed. Walsh stood, signaling the meeting's end. Miss Hale, Mr. Carter, you're both free to return to your duties. Outside the conference room, Nathan leaned against the wall, his legs suddenly weak. Victoria stood beside him, her professional mask firmly back in place despite the redness around her eyes. Well, that was terrifying. You were incredible in there. I was emotional and unprofessional. You were human, Nathan corrected, and honest. That's what convinced them. Victoria managed a small smile. I should get back to my office. Damage control, emails to send, fires to put out. She started to walk away, then turned back. Nathan, thank you for standing with me in there. That's what family does. After Victoria left, Nathan returned to his desk to find Marcus waiting. Dude, what happened? The whole floor is buzzing about you being called into a board meeting. Nathan sat down heavily. It's complicated. Everything with you lately is complicated. Marcus rolled closer. You going to tell me what's going on, or do I have to keep guessing? Nathan looked at his friend, one of the few people at the firm he genuinely trusted, and suddenly the weight of carrying this secret felt unbearable. Victoria Hale is my wife's sister, Nathan said quietly. Marcus blinked. What? Lillian had a sister. They were separated as kids, found each other a few years ago. Victoria is that sister. Nathan rubbed his face. Neither of us knew until recently. Someone found out and reported it to the board as a conflict of interest. Holy shit. Marcus sat back in his chair. That's why you were avoiding her, because she looks exactly like Lillian, yeah. Man, I don't even know what to say. That's insane. Tell me about it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Is everything okay now? With the board? For now. But someone went digging into our personal lives and exposed everything to the company, and I have no idea who or why. People are terrible, Marcus said simply. But for what it's worth, I'm glad you're okay, and I'm glad you told me. You've been carrying a lot alone. Nathan nodded, too emotionally exhausted to speak. That evening, Nathan picked Emma up from school and took her for ice cream. Their usual Friday tradition moved to Monday because they both needed something normal and sweet. Emma ordered her favorite flavor, and they sat in a corner booth, the familiar ritual soothing in its predictability. How was school? Nathan asked. Okay. I finished my family tree. Emma licked her ice cream thoughtfully. I added Aunt Victoria.
Nathan's spoon froze halfway to his mouth. You did? Yeah. Mrs. Chen said we had to include all our family, even if we don't see them very often, so I put her on Mommy's side. Emma pulled a folded paper from her backpack and smoothed it on the table. There it was, a carefully drawn tree with branches labeled in Emma's neat handwriting. And on one branch, Aunt Victoria, Mommy's sister. What did Mrs. Chen say? Nathan asked carefully. She asked about her. I said she lives in Charlotte, but I haven't met her yet. Emma looked up at him. Is that okay? That I put her on there? It's more than okay, sweetheart. It's perfect. Emma smiled, a real smile, the first genuinely happy expression Nathan had seen from her in days. Maybe I could meet her soon. Not tomorrow or anything, but soon. Nathan's throat tightened. Whenever you're ready. I'm still scared, Emma admitted. But I think Mommy would want us to know her, and I want to hear more stories about Mommy when she was little. Victoria would love to tell you those stories. Emma finished her ice cream in thoughtful silence. Then, Dad, do you think Mommy can see us from wherever she is? Nathan considered the question carefully. I don't know, baby. I'd like to think she can. I think she can, and I think she's happy we found Aunt Victoria. Emma's expression turned solemn. Because Mommy didn't want anyone to be alone. She always said family was the most important thing. She did say that. So even though it's weird and scary, I think we should try to be family with Aunt Victoria. Nathan reached across the table and took Emma's small hand in his. I think that's very brave of you. Will you be there when I meet her? Every single second. Then I think I'll be okay. That night, after Emma was asleep, Nathan called Victoria. Emma wants to meet you, he said without preamble. The silence on the other end was long enough that Nathan thought the connection had dropped. Then Victoria's voice, thick with tears. She does? Not tomorrow. She needs a little more time, but soon. Nathan, I can't. Victoria's composure crumbled completely. Thank you. Thank you for telling her about me, for showing her the video, for not giving up when she was scared. She's Lillian's daughter. She's stronger than she looks. She's your daughter too. That strength comes from both sides. They talked for an hour, making plans, discussing how to handle the first meeting, what to say and not say. It felt like choreographing something impossibly delicate, but also necessary and right. One more thing, Victoria said before they hung up. I found out who sent the anonymous tip to the board. Nathan sat up straighter. Who? Jennifer, my assistant. She was going through my files. She claims for legitimate work purposes, and saw the letters from Lillian. She put the pieces together and decided it was her duty to report a conflict of interest. What's going to happen to her? She's being terminated, not for reporting the conflict, that would have been appropriate through proper channels, but for going through my personal files without authorization. Victoria paused. I'm not happy about it. Jennifer was good at her job, but she violated trust. I'm sorry. Don't be. We would have had to disclose eventually anyway. She just forced the timeline. Victoria's voice softened. And in a strange way, maybe it was for the best. Now everything's in the open. No more secrets, no more hiding. After they said goodnight, Nathan sat in the quiet house and thought about secrets and truth, about family found and lost and rebuilt. Outside, Charlotte slept under winter stars. Inside, Nathan felt something shift, not healing, not yet, but the first small movement toward something that might eventually become wholeness. Upstairs, Emma's family tree lay on her desk, carefully colored and labeled, and on one branch, in letters that declared themselves permanent despite being drawn in washable marker, was the name of an aunt she hadn't met yet but was learning to trust. The journey toward becoming a family again was just beginning. But for the first time since Lillian died, Nathan felt like maybe, just maybe, they were heading in the right direction. The week before Christmas, Nathan stood in the parking lot of a small cafe on the edge of town, gripping his car keys so tightly they left impressions in his palm. Emma sat in the passenger seat, unusually quiet, her hands folded in her lap in a way that reminded him painfully of Lillian when she was nervous. We don't have to do this today, Nathan said for the third time. We can reschedule. I know. Emma's voice was small but determined. But I want to. I'm ready. And Nathan wasn't sure either of them was ready, but they'd chosen this cafe together,
Neutral ground, public enough to feel safe, but quiet enough for privacy. Victoria was already inside, had texted 5 minutes ago that she'd claimed a corner booth and would wait as long as they needed. Okay? Nathan unbuckled his seatbelt. Remember what we talked about. If you feel overwhelmed or scared, just tell me and we'll leave. No explanations needed. Emma nodded, but didn't move toward the door.
What are you thinking about? Nathan asked gently. What if I cry when I see her because she looks like Mommy? Then you cry. That's okay. What if she doesn't like me? That's impossible. You're impossible not to like. Emma gave him a look that was pure 8-year-old skepticism. You have to say that. You're my dad. I say it because it's true. Nathan reached over and squeezed her hand. Victoria already loves you, Em. You're her niece. You're part of Lillian. How could she not love you? But she doesn't even know me. Not yet. But that's what today is for. Emma took a deep breath, the way she did before jumping off the high dive at the community pool. Okay, I'm ready now. They walked across the parking lot together, Emma's hand tight in Nathan's. Through the cafe window, Nathan could see Victoria in the corner booth, her posture rigid with tension, a cup of coffee cooling in front of her untouched. The bell chimed when they entered. Victoria looked up, and her face transformed. Fear and hope and desperate longing all visible in the split second before she schooled her expression into something gentler. Nathan felt Emma's hand tighten painfully in his. It's okay, he murmured. Just breathe. They approached the booth slowly. Victoria stood, then seemed unsure whether to remain standing or sit, finally settling for standing with her hands clasped in front of her like a schoolgirl meeting the principal. Emma? Victoria said softly. It's so good to finally meet you. Emma stared up at her aunt, her face pale, her eyes wide. Nathan could see her taking in every detail, the dark eyes that matched her own, the bone structure that echoed her mother's, the height that suggested what Emma might grow into someday. You really do look like her, Emma whispered. I know. Victoria's voice wavered. Is that okay? Emma considered this seriously. I don't know yet. The honesty seemed to startle a laugh out of Victoria, brief and genuine. That's fair? They slid into the booth, Nathan and Emma on one side, Victoria on the other. An awkward silence settled over them, broken only by the cafe's background music and the hiss of the espresso machine. I brought something, Victoria said finally, reaching into her bag. If you want to see it. But if it's too much, just tell me. She pulled out a photo album, old and worn, the kind people used before everything became digital. Emma leaned forward despite herself. This is from when your mom and I were kids, Victoria said, opening to the first page. Before we were separated. The photo showed 2 little girls in matching sundresses, arms around each other, standing in front of a house Nathan didn't recognize. The younger girl, Lillian, was missing her front teeth and grinning widely. Mommy looks funny without teeth, Emma said, and something in the booth relaxed slightly. She was so proud of losing those teeth, Victoria said, a smile touching her face. She put them under her pillow and was convinced the tooth fairy would bring her $1 million. Did she? The tooth fairy brought her 50 cents. Lillian was very disappointed. Emma actually smiled. That sounds like something she'd do. She always wanted more than what was normal. She did, didn't she? Victoria turned the page. She also wanted a pet elephant. She asked for one every Christmas for 3 years straight. Really? Emma looked delighted by this information. Really? She said elephants never forget anything, so it would remember to love her forever. Victoria's voice caught slightly. She was very concerned about being remembered. Nathan watched his daughter lean closer to the album, her initial fear gradually giving way to curiosity. Victoria turned the pages slowly, narrating each photo, birthday parties and holidays, ordinary moments captured in fading Polaroids. This one, Victoria said, pointing to a picture of young Lillian holding a cat, was the day she convinced our mother to let her rescue a stray. She named it Mr. Whiskers, even though it was a girl cat. Emma giggled. That's a terrible name. It was, but Lillian loved that cat more than anything. Victoria paused. Did she tell you about that? About how much she loved animals? She never had any pets when I knew her, Emma said, her smile fading. Dad's allergic. Violently allergic, Nathan confirmed. We tried to get a hypoallergenic dog once, and I spent 3 days with my eyes swollen shut. Mommy said it was okay, Emma continued. She said some sacrifices were worth making for the people you love. But I always felt bad that she couldn't have pets because of Dad. Victoria reached across the table, stopping just short of touching Emma's hand. Your mom loved your dad more than any pet. Trust me on that. She told me once that choosing Nathan was the easiest decision she'd ever made, even if it meant giving up other things. Emma looked up at her aunt, searching for truth in her face. She really said that? She really did. Victoria pulled out her phone, scrolling through screenshots. Look, this is from an email she sent me about 2 months before she died. She turned the phone so Emma could read it. Victoria, Nathan bought me coffee in bed this morning even though he was running late for a meeting. He does that every Sunday, has for years, and it still makes me feel like the luckiest person alive. I know I complain sometimes about his work schedule or how he leaves his socks everywhere, but the truth is, I'd choose him in every lifetime. Even if it meant no pets, no sleep, no moment of peace. He's worth all of it. I hope you find someone who brings you coffee in bed someday. Everyone deserves that kind of love. L. Emma read it twice, her lips moving silently. When she looked up, her eyes were bright with tears. Daddy still makes coffee every Sunday, but there's nobody to give it to anymore. Nathan's throat closed. He hadn't realized Emma noticed that particular ritual, the way he still made 2 cups, still carried them both upstairs before remembering and drinking them both himself in the empty bedroom. I'm sorry, Victoria said quietly. Maybe I shouldn't have. No. Emma wiped her eyes. I like knowing that. I like knowing she was happy. They ordered food then. Grilled cheese for Emma, soup for Victoria, a sandwich Nathan had no appetite for. The conversation became easier as they ate, Victoria sharing small stories about Lillian's childhood, while Emma asked questions with increasing confidence. Did Mommy ever get in trouble at school? Emma wanted to know. Once. She told the teacher that dinosaurs couldn't possibly be extinct because she'd seen one in her backyard. Victoria grinned at the memory. She was very insistent. When the teacher tried to explain, Lillian said maybe it was the teacher who needed to go back to school. Emma's eyes went wide. She didn't. She absolutely did. Your mom did not like being told she was wrong. She was like that with me too, Emma said. One time I said I didn't want to eat vegetables, and she gave me this whole speech about nutrition and how my body was a temple and I needed to respect it. I was like 5. That's very Lillian. Victoria's expression softened. She cared so much about the people she loved, sometimes too much. You can't love people too much, Emma said with certainty. No, Victoria agreed quietly. I suppose you can't. After lunch, Emma excused herself to the bathroom. The moment she was out of earshot, Victoria turned to Nathan with tears streaming down her face. She's perfect, Victoria whispered. She's so much like Lillian it hurts, but she's also completely herself, and she's perfect. She likes you, Nathan said. I can tell. I was so scared she'd hate me, that seeing my face would be too painful. It probably is painful, but she's braver than both of us combined. Nathan watched his daughter navigate through the tables, her shoulders set with determination. She's been carrying so much grief, and she's still willing to open her heart to more people. That takes courage. Victoria wiped her eyes. I don't want to mess this up. You won't. How do you know? Because you love her already, and kids can feel that. Emma returned and they ordered hot chocolate, the rich kind with whipped cream and chocolate shavings. Emma got a dollop of whipped cream on her nose, and Victoria laughed, a real laugh, unguarded and warm. What? Emma asked, defensive but smiling. Nothing. You just look like your mother did when she ate ice cream. She always got it everywhere. I do not get it everywhere. Emma wiped her nose, smearing chocolate across her cheek in the process. Nathan handed her a napkin, his heart so full it ached. They talked until the cafe started preparing for the dinner rush. Emma showed Victoria her drawings, the elaborate house designs she'd been working on, and Victoria asked intelligent questions about architecture that made Emma beam with pride. You're really good at this, Victoria said, studying a particularly complex floor plan. Have you thought about becoming an architect like your dad? Maybe. Or maybe a teacher, or a veterinarian. Emma shrugged. I have time to decide. You do. All the time in the world. When they finally stood to leave, Emma hesitated, then threw her arms around Victoria's waist in a quick, fierce hug. Victoria froze for a split second before hugging back, her expression crumpling with emotion. Thank you for showing me the pictures, Emma said into Victoria's coat. Thank you for wanting to see them. Victoria's voice was thick. Can we do this again? If you want to? Emma pulled back, considering. Yeah, I think I'd like that. In the parking lot, Victoria walked them to their car. She crouched down to Emma's eye level. Your mom would be so proud of you, Victoria said. You know that, right? Emma nodded seriously. I hope so. I know so. Victoria stood, meeting Nathan's eyes over Emma's head. Thank you, for today, for all of it. Thank you for being patient with us, Nathan replied. They drove home in comfortable silence. Emma pressed her face against the window, watching Charlotte's lights begin to twinkle in the gathering dusk. Dad? She said finally. Yeah? I think Aunt Victoria is sad. Nathan glanced at her in the rearview mirror. What makes you say that? The way she looks sometimes, like she's trying really hard to be happy, but it's difficult. Emma traced patterns on the foggy glass. I think she misses Mommy as much as we do. I think you're right. We should include her more in stuff, so she's not so lonely. Nathan's eyes burned. That's a very kind thought. It's what Mommy would want. Emma said it with such certainty that Nathan couldn't argue. That night, after Emma was asleep, Nathan found himself pulling out the box he'd kept hidden in the back of his closet, Lillian's journal, the one he hadn't been able to open since her death. He sat on the edge of the bed and opened to a random page. Lillian's handwriting filled the margins, her thoughts captured in blue ink. Nathan asked me today why I always write in journals instead of typing. I told him it's because handwriting feels more permanent, more real, like I'm putting pieces of my soul onto paper where they can't be deleted or lost. I didn't tell him the real reason, that I'm terrified of being forgotten, that someday Emma will grow up and won't remember my voice or the way I laughed or the things I cared about. At least this way she'll have my words. She'll know her mother was real. Nathan turned pages, skimming entries about Emma's first steps, about arguments over whose turn it was to do dishes, about dreams for the future. Then he found it, an entry from 3 years ago, dated just after Lillian had first connected with Victoria. I found her. After all these years of wondering, of feeling like something was missing, I found my sister. Her name is Victoria, and she's brilliant and guarded, and she cried when we video chatted for the first time. She said she never stopped looking for me. 20 years, and she never gave up. I don't know how to process this. All my life I've had parents who loved me, a husband who adores me, a daughter who is my whole world. But there was always this empty space, this missing piece I couldn't name. Now I know what it was. It was her. It was Victoria. I want Nathan to meet her. I want Emma to know her. I want to build a family that includes this sister I thought I'd lost forever. I'm going to wait until the time is right, until I'm sure this is real and stable, and then I'm going to introduce them. I have a feeling Victoria and Nathan will like each other. They're both careful people, both protective. They both love deeply, even though they don't always show it. I'm so happy I could burst. After 18 months of grief and fear and feeling like I was drowning, I finally have something to look forward to. I have a sister. I have family. Nathan closed the journal, tears blurring the words. Lillian had planned for this, had wanted exactly what was happening now. Victoria becoming part of their family, connecting with Emma, building something new from the wreckage of loss. He texted Victoria, "Are you awake?" The response came immediately. "Yes, can't stop thinking about today." "Me neither. Emma really liked you." "The feeling is mutual. She's incredible, Nathan. You've done an amazing job with her." Nathan stared at the message, then typed, "I read some of Lillian's journal tonight. She wrote about wanting us all to be family. She'd be happy about today." A long pause. Then, "Can I read it someday? The journal?" "Yes, whenever you're ready. Maybe we could read it together, the way we did with the emails." "I'd like that." Another pause. "Nathan,
I know this is fast and maybe too much, but I want you to know, meeting Emma today, getting to be part of her life, it's the best thing that's happened to me since Lillian died. Thank you for letting me in." Nathan typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on the truth. "You're not an outsider we're letting in. You're family we found. There's a difference." The next morning was Saturday. Emma woke up early and climbed into Nathan's bed the way she used to when she was smaller. "Can we invite Aunt Victoria for Christmas?" she asked without preamble. Nathan had been dreading this question. Christmas was in 1 week, and it would be their second without Lillian. Last year had been unbearable, just the two of them trying to maintain traditions that felt hollow without her. "Are you sure?" Nathan asked. "Christmas might be hard with someone new." "It's going to be hard anyway," Emma said with devastating logic. "At least if Aunt Victoria is there, we can tell stories about Mommy and she can tell us things we don't know. It'll be like having a piece of Mommy back." Victoria isn't, I know she's not Mommy, but she knew Mommy when she was my age. She has stories and memories that nobody else has." Emma looked at him with Lillian's eyes. "Don't you want to hear them?" Nathan pulled her close. "Yeah, sweetheart, I do." They called Victoria together, Emma insisting on being the one to extend the invitation. "Aunt Victoria, it's Emma." She paused. "We're having Christmas at our house, and we wanted to know if you'd come. Dad's making ham and I'm helping with the cookies, and we always watch old movies after dinner. You could come if you want, if you don't have other plans." Nathan couldn't hear Victoria's response, but he saw Emma's face light up. "Really? Okay, good. And Aunt Victoria, can you bring more pictures? I want to see all of them." After they hung up, Emma announced she needed to make special decorations for Christmas since they were having company. She spent the rest of the day cutting construction paper and drawing elaborate designs while Nathan tried to figure out how to host Victoria in the home he'd shared with her sister. Monday at work, Nathan found a gift box on his desk. Inside was a beautiful leather portfolio embossed with his initials. The card read, "For the architect who builds beautiful things even when his world feels broken. Thank you for letting me be part of yours. V." Nathan ran his fingers over the smooth leather, touched by the thoughtfulness of it. His phone rang. Marcus. "Dude, did you hear? The company's planning a big holiday party next week. Mandatory attendance, black tie, the whole deal." Nathan groaned. The last thing he wanted was to spend an evening making small talk in formal wear. "Hale's insisting everyone come," Marcus continued. "Apparently it's part of rebuilding company culture or some corporate thing. You bringing a date?" "I'm bringing my 8-year-old daughter." "Solid choice. She's better company than most of the people from accounting." The party was scheduled for the Friday before Christmas, the same week Victoria would be joining them for the holiday. Nathan texted her, "You planning to attend your own mandatory party?" "Unfortunately, yes. Part of the job. You?" "Emma's coming as my date." "Perfect. She can keep me from dying of boredom during the speeches." Friday evening arrived with unseasonable warmth. Nathan wrestled Emma into the velvet dress Lillian had bought her last year, now slightly too short, but still presentable. Emma insisted on wearing the silver shoes that matched, even though they pinched her toes. "Beauty is pain," she declared dramatically. "Your mother used to say that." "I know. That's where I learned it." The party was held at a downtown hotel, the ballroom glittering with lights and decorations. Emma's eyes went wide when they entered. "It's like a fairy tale," she breathed. Nathan kept a hand on her shoulder as they navigated through the crowd. Colleagues stopped to greet them, many commenting on how much Emma had grown, how much she looked like her mother. Emma handled it with grace that seemed far beyond her 8 years. "Thank you," she'd say politely. "I miss her too." Victoria appeared across the room, stunning in a midnight blue gown that made her look like someone from another world entirely. She was surrounded by board members and clients, her professional mask firmly in place. Then she saw Emma, and her whole face changed, softened into genuine warmth. She excused herself and made her way over. "Emma, you look beautiful." Emma did a little spin. "Do you like my dress? Mommy picked it out." Something flickered across Victoria's face, pain maybe, or longing. She had excellent taste. She did. Emma paused. "You look really pretty too. That color is nice on you." "Thank you." Victoria crouched down, heedless of her expensive gown.
I have something for you. I was going to wait until Christmas, but I think you should have it now. She pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a small elephant. Mommy's favorite animal, Emma whispered. She never got her pet elephant, Victoria said softly, but she told me once that she believed elephants represented memory, that they never forgot the people they loved. She helped Emma clasp the bracelet around her wrist. I thought you might like to have that reminder, that your mom will never forget you, wherever she is, and that we won't forget her either. Emma threw her arms around Victoria's neck, and Nathan watched his daughter and her aunt hold each other in the middle of the glittering ballroom, united by love for the woman they'd both lost. The evening passed in a blur of conversation and carefully catered food. Emma charmed everyone she met, her natural warmth drawing people in the same way Lillian's had. Near the end of the night, the company president called for attention. There were speeches about the year's successes, about the turnaround Victoria had orchestrated, about promising futures. Then Walsh stepped to the microphone. Before we conclude, I want to address something that came up recently. There were questions about relationships within our company, about potential conflicts of interest. He paused, looking directly at Nathan and Victoria. After thorough investigation, we found no impropriety. What we found instead was a reminder that we're not just colleagues, we're a community, and communities support each other through difficulty. He raised his glass. To Victoria Hale, who turned this company around. To Nathan Carter, whose work continues to define our reputation. And to the complicated, beautiful ways that families form, even in unexpected circumstances. The room erupted in applause. Nathan felt his face burn as people turned to look at them. Emma grabbed his hand, squeezing tight. Across the room, Victoria's eyes met his. She mouthed 2 words. Thank you. After the party, Nathan drove Emma home through streets decorated with Christmas lights. She was quiet in the back seat, the elephant charm catching the glow of passing streetlights. Dad, she said finally, I think I'm glad Aunt Victoria came to work at your company. Yeah? Yeah, because otherwise we never would have found her. And even though it's sad and weird sometimes, I think Mommy would want us to know her. I think you're right. Emma yawned, her head drooping against the window. I'm excited for Christmas now. I wasn't before, but I am now. Nathan glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his heart full. Me too, baby. Me too. That night, after Emma was asleep, Nathan stood in the doorway of what had been Lillian's study. He'd left it untouched for 18 months, unable to pack away her things, unable to change anything about the space that had been so uniquely hers. But tonight he walked in and sat at her desk. He pulled out fresh paper and began to write. Dear Lillian, I know you can't read this. I know you're gone and no amount of writing will bring you back. But I need to tell you what's happening, need to believe somehow that you know. We found Victoria, or she found us, or maybe you orchestrated the whole thing from wherever you are now because it feels too perfect to be coincidence. Emma met her today, really met her, not just saw her from a distance. And she was brave and kind and exactly the daughter you raised her to be. You'd be so proud. Victoria is wonderful, Lil. She's strong and careful, and she loves Emma already, with a fierceness that reminds me of you. She carries your face, but she's entirely her own person, and I think you'd like who she is. I'm learning how to do this, how to keep living, how to let new people in, how to build something from the pieces you left behind. It's hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, but we're doing it. I miss you every single day. Emma misses you. Victoria misses you. But we're finding each other, and I think that's what you wanted. I hope you're proud of us. I hope you know we're trying. I love you. Always. Nathan. He folded the letter and placed it in Lillian's journal, between pages filled with her handwriting and dreams. Then he turned off the light and closed the door, but this time it felt less like preserving a shrine and more like honoring a memory. In her bedroom, Emma slept with the elephant bracelet still clasped around her wrist, a small smile on her face. And somewhere across town, Victoria sat in her quiet apartment looking at photos of her sister, grateful for second chances and unexpected families and the strange grace of finding connection in grief. Christmas was coming, and for the first time in 2 years, it felt like something to celebrate rather than endure. Christmas Eve arrived with a dusting of snow, rare for Charlotte,
the kind of unexpected gift that made Emma press her face against the window and squeal with delight. "Dad! Dad, it's snowing! A white Christmas, just like in the movies!" Nathan came downstairs to find his daughter already dressed, her hair unbrushed and wild, bouncing on her toes with excitement. "I see that. When did you wake up?" "Like an hour ago. I've been watching it." Emma turned from the window, her expression suddenly uncertain. "Is Aunt Victoria still coming today? The snow won't stop her, will it?" "She's still coming. She texted at 6 this morning confirming." Nathan smiled at the memory of that text. Victoria apparently as unable to sleep as Emma, both of them nervous and excited about their first holiday together. Emma spent the morning helping Nathan prepare. She set the table with Lillian's good china, the dishes that only came out for special occasions. She arranged pine branches and candles as centerpieces, her tongue poking out in concentration the way it always did when she was focused. "Does it look nice?" she asked, stepping back to survey her work. "It looks perfect. Mommy always made everything look perfect." Emma adjusted a candlestick slightly. "I want Aunt Victoria to feel welcome, like this is her home too." Nathan's throat tightened. "I think she'll love it." At 2 in the afternoon, the doorbell rang. Emma ran to answer it, then froze with her hand on the knob. "What if this is weird?" she whispered to Nathan. "What if having her here in Mommy's house is too weird?" "Then we'll deal with weird," Nathan said gently. "But I don't think it will be. I think it'll be exactly right." Emma took a deep breath and opened the door. Victoria stood on the porch, arms full of wrapped presents, snowflakes caught in her dark hair. She wore jeans and a soft sweater, casual in a way Nathan had never seen her, more approachable somehow. "Merry Christmas," Victoria said, her smile tremulous. "Merry Christmas." Emma grabbed 2 of the packages. "Come in. It's snowing, and we have hot chocolate, and Dad made cookies, but they're kind of burned on the bottom." "They're not burned," Nathan protested. "They're caramelized." "They're burned," Emma stage whispered to Victoria, who laughed, a real, unguarded sound that filled the entryway. Victoria stepped inside, and Nathan watched her take in the house. Lillian's house, really, since she'd chosen every paint color and furniture arrangement. He saw the moment Victoria recognized it, saw her eyes linger on the photos covering the walls, all the captured moments of a life she'd missed. "Your home is beautiful," Victoria said quietly. "Mommy decorated everything," Emma said proudly. "Dad says he has no taste, so he just let her do whatever she wanted." "I said I have different taste," Nathan corrected, which your mother interpreted as no taste. They settled in the living room, Victoria perched on the edge of the couch like she might need to flee at any moment. Emma brought her hot chocolate topped with an architectural feat of whipped cream and marshmallows. "I made it special," Emma announced. Victoria took a sip and her eyebrows rose. "This is delicious. What's your secret?" "Vanilla extract and a tiny bit of cinnamon. Mommy's recipe." Emma settled next to her aunt, closer than Nathan expected. She said regular hot chocolate was boring. She was right about that. Victoria cradled the mug in both hands. "Your mom had opinions about everything. She once wrote me a 3-page email about why strawberry ice cream was superior to all other flavors. She did that to me about why we should get a dog." Emma's eyes lit up. She made charts and graphs and everything. Dad still said no because of his allergies, but the presentation was really good. They traded Lillian's stories, each one building on the last. Nathan contributed when he could, but mostly he watched his daughter and her aunt find their rhythm, the way they leaned toward each other when they talked, how Emma's gestures were becoming more animated, how Victoria's careful walls were crumbling with each shared memory. "I brought something," Victoria said eventually, setting down her mug. "I wasn't sure if it was appropriate, but I wanted you both to have it." She pulled out a wrapped package, flat and rectangular. Emma tore into it with enthusiastic disregard for the careful wrapping, revealing a leather-bound book. "I made this," Victoria explained as Emma opened it. "It's everything I have from those 18 months when Lillian and I reconnected. All the emails, letters, photos, voice messages transcribed. Everything we said to each other." Emma turned the pages slowly, her eyes scanning her mother's words. "This is all the things Mommy said?" "Every word!" Victoria's voice was thick. "I thought you should have them. So you can know what she was thinking, what she was feeling. So you can know how much she loved you and your dad." Emma hugged the book to her chest. "Thank you. This is the best present ever. There's more. Victoria pulled out another package, this one for Nathan. Inside was a flash drive. I recorded all the voice messages, her actual voice saying these things. I didn't know if you'd want to hear them or if it would be too painful, but I thought you should have the choice. Nathan stared at the small drive, his hands shaking. Lillian's voice, actual recordings of her talking, laughing, being alive. Thank you, he managed. I don't know if I can listen yet, but thank you. Whenever you're ready, or never. Whatever you need. They spent the afternoon in comfortable domesticity. Emma showed Victoria her room, her drawings, her collection of rocks from various trips that Lillian had insisted they keep. Victoria admired everything with genuine interest, asking questions that made Emma glow with pride. In the kitchen, Nathan prepared dinner while Victoria sat at the counter keeping him company. It felt strangely natural, having her there, the conversation flowing easily between comfortable silences. Emma seems happy, Victoria observed, watching through the doorway as Emma arranged presents under the tree. She is. Happier than I've seen her in months. Nathan checked the ham in the oven. You're good for her? She's good for me too. Victoria paused. Can I tell you something? I almost didn't come today. I almost called and made up an excuse because I was terrified of intruding on your family traditions. What changed your mind? I realized that Lillian would have been furious with me for being a coward. Victoria smiled slightly. She didn't tolerate self-pity or fear. She would have told me to get over myself and show up for the people I love. That sounds like her. I'm trying to live the way she would have wanted, bravely, openly. Victoria met his eyes. Thank you for giving me the chance to be part of this, part of Emma's life. It means more than I can say. Dinner was chaotic and wonderful. Emma talked nonstop, telling Victoria about school and her friends and her dreams of designing a house made entirely of glass. Victoria listened with rapt attention, asking follow-up questions that showed she was genuinely interested, not just being polite. After dinner, they settled in the living room to watch movies, an old tradition Lillian had started. Emma insisted on It's a Wonderful Life, and they curled up together on the couch, Emma in the middle, her head on Victoria's shoulder. Halfway through the movie, Emma fell asleep. Nathan moved to carry her to bed, but Victoria stopped him with a gentle hand. Let her stay a little longer, Victoria whispered. I like this. So they sat in the flickering television light, Emma breathing deeply between them, and Nathan thought about families, how they formed and reformed, how loss created space for new connections, how love persisted even when the people you loved were gone. Nathan, Victoria's voice was barely audible. Do you think she'd approve, Lillian, I mean? Do you think she'd be happy about this? About us being together like this? I think she'd be thrilled, Nathan said honestly. I read more of her journal. She wrote about wanting exactly this. She wanted Emma to know you, wanted us to be family. She planned for it. I wish she was here to see it. Me too. They sat in silence until the movie ended. Then Nathan carried Emma to bed while Victoria cleaned up the dishes, moving through the kitchen like she belonged there. Later, as Victoria prepared to leave, Emma woke up and came downstairs in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. You're leaving? She asked, disappointed. I should. It's late. Emma looked at Nathan, then back to Victoria. Do you have to? It's Christmas Eve. You could stay. We have a guest room. Victoria hesitated, clearly torn between wanting to stay and not wanting to overstep. Please? Emma added. It's more fun with you here. If it's okay with your dad, it's more than okay, Nathan said. Stay. So Victoria stayed. They had hot chocolate one more time, sitting around the tree with just the Christmas lights for illumination. Emma asked Victoria to tell stories about young Lillian, and Victoria obliged, painting pictures of a fearless little girl who climbed too high and dreamed too big and loved with her whole heart. She sounds amazing, Emma said sleepily. She was. And you're just like her. Emma smiled and hugged Victoria goodnight, then Nathan, before heading upstairs. After she left, the room felt quieter but not uncomfortably so. Thank you for staying, Nathan said. It means a lot to Emma. It means a lot to me too. Victoria looked at the photos on the mantel, Lillian smiling in frozen moments of happiness. I spent so many Christmases alone after my mother died. being here, being part of this. It's more than I ever hoped for. You're family now. You're always welcome here." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I keep waiting for this to feel wrong, for the guilt to overwhelm me, like I'm trying to take Lillian's place. But it doesn't feel like that. It feels like honoring her memory by loving the people she loved. That's exactly what it is." They stayed up late talking, sharing memories and fears and hopes for the future. Victoria told him about her childhood, about the years of searching, about the loneliness that had defined her adult life. Nathan told her about meeting Lillian, about Emma's birth, about learning to be a single parent in the wreckage of sudden loss. "I don't know how you did it," Victoria said, "how you kept going after she died." "I didn't have a choice. Emma needed me." Nathan paused. "But there were days I wasn't sure I'd make it, days when the grief felt like it would swallow me whole. And now? Now it's different. The grief is still there. I don't think it'll ever fully leave. But it's not drowning me anymore. There's space for other things too. Joy, hope, connection." He looked at Victoria. "You helped with that. Knowing you, having you in our lives, it's given the grief purpose. Lillian's death brought us together, and that feels like it means something." Victoria wiped her eyes. She'd like that. The idea that even her death created something good. She would. Christmas morning arrived with Emma's excited shriek. Nathan woke to find his daughter jumping on his bed, her hair a wild tangle. "It's Christmas! Santa came! Get up!" "What time is it?" Nathan mumbled. 6, come on!" Downstairs, Victoria was already awake, looking slightly rumpled in borrowed pajamas, a cup of coffee in her hands. She smiled when she saw them. "Merry Christmas!" Emma launched herself at the presents, sorting them into piles with practiced efficiency. She insisted Victoria open hers first, a drawing Emma had made of the three of them together, carefully framed. "I drew us as a family," Emma explained, "because that's what we are now." "Right?" Victoria pressed the drawing to her chest, crying openly. "Right, that's exactly what we are." They opened presents in a chaos of wrapping paper and laughter. Victoria had brought thoughtful gifts. Art supplies for Emma, a first edition architecture book for Nathan, things that showed she'd been paying attention to what they loved. Later, while Emma played with her new toys, Nathan and Victoria sat at the kitchen table drinking coffee and watching snow continue to fall outside. "I have something for you," Nathan said, pulling out a small box. "It's not much, but I wanted you to have it." Inside was a silver locket. Victoria opened it to find 2 photos, young Lillian and Victoria on one side, adult Lillian holding baby Emma on the other. "So you can carry your family with you," Nathan said quietly. Victoria couldn't speak. She just fastened the locket around her neck and held it against her heart. The weeks after Christmas fell into a new pattern. Victoria came for dinner twice a week, helped Emma with homework, took her to museums and parks. She and Nathan grew closer too, their relationship evolving from careful politeness to genuine friendship. One Saturday in February, Nathan invited Victoria to join them on their weekly visit to Lillian's grave. Emma had suggested it, saying Aunt Victoria should get to talk to Mommy too. They stood together in Elmwood Cemetery, Emma holding flowers she'd picked herself. The gravestone was simple: Lillian Grace Carter, beloved wife and mother. "Hi, Mommy," Emma said, kneeling to arrange the flowers. "I brought Aunt Victoria. I know you wanted us to meet, and we finally did, and she's really nice. I think you'd be happy." Victoria knelt beside Emma, her hand trembling as she touched the cold marble. "Hi, Lily. I'm sorry it took me so long to come here. I was scared." She took a shaky breath. "Your family is wonderful. Emma is brilliant and brave and so much like you. Nathan takes good care of her, of both of us, really. We're okay. We miss you every day, but we're okay." Emma leaned against Victoria's shoulder. "I think she knows." "I think so too." Nathan watched them together and felt something shift in his chest. The grief was still there, would always be there, but it was no longer the only thing he felt. There was gratitude too, and love, and hope for the future. In March, Nathan made a decision. He called Victoria one evening after Emma was asleep. "I want to do something," he said, "for Lillian, for all of us." "Oop! What kind of something?" "A memorial garden. Here in Charlotte, somewhere public. A place where people can go to remember the ones they've lost."
Nathan's words came faster as the idea took shape. We could design it together, you, me, and Emma. Make it beautiful. Make it mean something. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Lillian would love that. I know. They spent the next 3 months planning. Emma drew elaborate designs that Nathan refined into architectural plans. Victoria handled the permits and fundraising, her connections and reputation opening doors. The city donated a small plot near the botanical gardens, and local businesses contributed materials. The garden took shape slowly. A circular space with benches and flowering trees, a small fountain at the center. Stone pathways winding through carefully chosen plants. And at the heart of it, a plaque that read, "For those we love and miss, may their memory be a blessing." The dedication ceremony was held in June, exactly 2 years after Lillian's death. Friends and colleagues gathered, along with strangers who'd heard about the project and wanted to support it. Nathan stood at the front with Victoria and Emma on either side of him. He looked out at the crowd and thought about grief, how it could isolate or connect, destroy or transform. My wife died 2 years ago, Nathan began, his voice steady. She was young and healthy, and we thought we had decades left together. Her death shattered my world and left my daughter without a mother. He paused, looking down at Emma, who nodded encouragingly. But grief, I've learned, isn't just about loss. It's also about love, about remembering, about finding ways to honor the people we've lost by living lives that would make them proud. Nathan's eyes found Victoria in the crowd. Sometimes grief brings unexpected gifts. It brought me to Victoria, my wife's sister, a woman I'd been avoiding because looking at her hurt. But she's become family, not a replacement for what we lost, but something new and valuable in its own right. Victoria stepped forward, taking Nathan's hand and Emma's. Lillian believed in family, she said, in connection and love and being brave enough to let people in even when it's scary. This garden is a testament to that belief. A place where people can come to remember, to grieve, to heal. A place where loss doesn't have to mean the end of love. Emma spoke last, her young voice clear and strong. My mom died when I was 6. I don't remember everything about her, but I remember how she made people feel safe, loved, important. She looked up at the adults beside her. I have Aunt Victoria now. She tells me stories about my mom and helps me understand where I come from. And my dad takes care of both of us. We're a family, a different family than before, but still a real one. The crowd applauded. People came forward to walk through the garden, to sit on the benches, to trace the words on the plaque. Nathan watched them and felt a sense of completion, like a circle had finally closed. Later, after everyone else had left, the 3 of them sat together on one of the benches. The evening sun cast golden light through the trees, and birds sang in the branches overhead. She would have loved this, Victoria said softly. She would have bossed us around about which plants to choose, Nathan corrected, and they all laughed. Probably, Emma agreed. She fingered the elephant charm on her bracelet, a habit she'd developed when thinking about her mother. Do you think she knows about the garden and us being together? Nathan considered the question seriously. I don't know if the dead can see what we do, but I think love persists beyond death. And I think the best way to honor someone we've lost is to live in a way that reflects what they valued. Your mom valued family and connection and bravery. That's what we're doing. Then she knows, Emma said with certainty. They sat in comfortable silence as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Nathan thought about the journey that had brought them here, from that first devastating glimpse of Victoria in the conference room to this moment of peace in a garden built from grief and love. Nathan, Victoria's voice was tentative. Can I tell you something? Always. When I first found out Lillian died, I wanted to die too. The pain of losing her right after finding her felt unbearable. I spent months in this fog of grief and regret, wishing I'd searched harder, found her sooner, had more time. Victoria looked at Emma, then back at Nathan. But being here, being part of your lives, it's given me a reason to keep going. You've given me a family when I thought I'd lost my only chance at one. I need you to know how much that means. You've given us something too, Nathan said. You've given us more of Lillian
More stories, more memories, more understanding of where she came from. And you've given Emma something I couldn't, a connection to her mother's past, a bridge to family history. We're good for each other, Emma said simply, like puzzle pieces that fit together even though they came from different boxes. It was such a perfectly Emma thing to say, wise and whimsical at once, that both adults laughed. As darkness fell, they walked back to the parking lot together. Emma held both their hands swinging between them, chattering about a project for summer camp. "Can Aunt Victoria help me with it?" she asked. "It's about family history, and she knows all the stories." "Of course I'll help," Victoria said. "We could work on it together," Nathan added. "Make it a family project." "I'd like that." Victoria's voice was soft but happy. In the car, Emma fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted from the emotion of the day. Nathan and Victoria sat in the front seats, watching her in the rearview mirror. "Thank you," Nathan said quietly, "for everything. For being patient with me when I was avoiding you. For being patient with Emma when she was scared. For being exactly who Lillian needed you to be for us." "Thank you for letting me in," Victoria replied. "For taking a risk on someone who looked like your grief made flesh. For giving me a chance to know my niece and be part of this family." Nathan reached over and squeezed her hand, a gesture of friendship and understanding and shared love for the woman they'd both lost. "Lillian would be proud of us," he said. "She would," Victoria agreed. "She'd probably say we took too long to figure it out, but she'd be proud anyway." They drove home through Charlotte's quiet streets, the memorial garden behind them, a home full of memories ahead. The grief would always be there. Nathan knew that now. The missing would never fully stop. But there was room for other things too. For joy and connection and the strange, beautiful ways that families could form from the wreckage of loss. At home, Nathan carried Emma to bed while Victoria made tea. They sat in the living room where this journey had begun, where Nathan had first seen Victoria and felt his world tilt, where he'd slowly learned to see past the resemblance to the person underneath. "I've been thinking," Victoria said, wrapping her hands around her mug, "about the future. About what comes next. And I want to be more involved, not just visits and dinners, but really part of Emma's life. School events and parent-teacher conferences and ordinary Tuesday afternoons." She met his eyes. "If that's okay with you. I don't want to overstep or try to replace Lillian." "You're not replacing anyone," Nathan interrupted gently. "You're adding to our family. There's a difference. So it's okay?" "It's more than okay. Emma needs you. I need you." Nathan paused, surprised by his own honesty. "You've become one of my closest friends. Having you in our lives isn't an obligation or a connection we maintain out of duty. It's something I actively want." Victoria's eyes glistened. "I want it too. I want to be here for Emma's birthday and her school plays and the ordinary moments in between. I want to be the kind of family Lillian imagined we'd be. Then that's what we'll be." They talked late into the night, making plans and sharing hopes, and building the foundation for something that felt less like replacing what was lost and more like honoring it by creating something new. When Victoria finally left, close to midnight, Nathan stood in the doorway and watched her walk to her car. She turned back before getting in. "Nathan, I'm really glad you stopped avoiding me." "Me too." After she drove away, Nathan went upstairs and checked on Emma. She was sleeping peacefully, the elephant bracelet catching moonlight from the window. On her nightstand, alongside Lillian's photo, was now a picture of Victoria, the three of them at the garden dedication, smiling together. Nathan sat on the edge of Emma's bed and brushed hair from her forehead. "We're going to be okay," he whispered. "More than okay. We're going to be happy. I promise." In his own room, Nathan pulled out Lillian's journal one more time. He turned to the last entry she'd ever written, dated the day before she died. "I've been thinking about legacy today, about what we leave behind when we're gone. I used to think it was accomplishments or possessions or the mark we make on the world, but now I think it's simpler than that. Legacy is love. It's the connections we build, the people we touch, the ways we make others feel seen and valued. It's Nathan knowing he's loved every single day. It's Emma growing up confident and kind. It's Victoria knowing she has a sister who never stopped believing in her. If I died tomorrow, I'd die knowing I loved well. And that's all any of us can hope for." Nathan closed the journal and pressed it to his chest. "You did, Lil," he said to the empty room. You loved so well, and we're doing our best to honor that, to love each other the way you loved us, to be the family you wanted us to be." He turned off the light and lay in the darkness, listening to the house settle around him. For the first time in 2 years, the silence didn't feel oppressive. It felt peaceful, full of potential. The journey hadn't been easy. There had been pain and fear and moments when Nathan thought the grief would break him completely. But here, on the other side of the worst of it, he could see what he'd gained. A sister for Emma, a friend for himself, a connection to Lillian's past that enriched their understanding of who she'd been, and more than that, proof that love persisted, that families could rebuild themselves in new configurations. That loss, while devastating, didn't have to be the end of the story. It could also be a beginning. Outside, snow began to fall again, unseasonable for June, but somehow perfect. Nathan watched it through the window and thought about second chances and unexpected gifts, and the woman who'd looked like grief but became something else entirely. Victoria, his wife's sister, Emma's aunt, his friend, family. The next morning, Nathan woke to find Emma already dressed and making breakfast, badly, but with enthusiasm. "I'm making pancakes," she announced, "for when Aunt Victoria gets here." "Aunt Victoria's coming over this morning?" "I invited her. She said yes." Emma flipped a pancake with more confidence than skill. "Is that okay?" Nathan looked at his daughter, brave and kind and so much like her mother, and felt his heart swell. "That's perfect, sweetheart. Absolutely perfect." And when Victoria arrived 20 minutes later, arms full of fresh fruit and real maple syrup, when they sat around the table eating Emma's lumpy pancakes and laughing together, when Emma told a story that made them all cry and then immediately made them laugh, Nathan felt something he hadn't felt in 2 years. Complete. Not the same as before. Different. Changed by loss and grief and the hard work of rebuilding. But complete nonetheless. Lillian was gone. That truth would never change, and the ache of her absence would never fully disappear. But she'd left behind love, in the daughter who carried her face, in the husband who'd learned her favorite coffee order by heart, in the sister who'd searched for 20 years and never gave up hope. And that love had grown, expanded, created connections that Lillian herself had wanted but never lived to see. In the space where sorrow had lived, a new family was growing, not replacing what was lost, but honoring it, building something beautiful from broken pieces. And somewhere, maybe nowhere, maybe everywhere, Lillian was smiling. Because this, Nathan realized, was exactly what she would have wanted. Her family, whole again in a different way. Her sister, no longer alone. Her daughter, surrounded by love. Her husband, learning to live again rather than just survive. This was her legacy. And it was beautiful. The morning stretched into afternoon. They decided to visit the memorial garden to show Emma the first flowers that had bloomed. Walking through the space they'd created together, Nathan felt the weight he'd been carrying for 2 years finally begin to lift. Not gone, never gone, but lighter, bearable, shared. Emma ran ahead, calling back to them about a butterfly she'd spotted. Victoria laughed and chased after her, and Nathan stood for a moment watching them, his daughter and her aunt, connected by blood and loss and the fierce determination to honor the woman who'd brought them together. "Thank you, Lil," Nathan whispered to the wind, "for everything, for loving me, for giving me Emma, for finding Victoria and leaving her for us to find, for teaching us how to love even when it hurts." He walked forward to join them, to be part of this family they were building from grief and hope and stubborn, persistent love. And as he reached them, as Emma grabbed his hand and Victoria's, as they stood together in the garden dedicated to memory and healing, Nathan understood something fundamental. Love doesn't end with death. It transforms. It adapts. It finds new expressions and new channels. And sometimes, if you're brave enough to let it, it grows into something you never expected but desperately needed. A family. Not the one he'd planned for, not the one he'd lost, but a family nonetheless. And that was enough. That was everything.